Passes west of the city, but the wind has certainly kicked up in the last 10 to 15 minutes. There's Rich Stubler. His Argos can take the outright lead in the East today. Toronto has won 4 of its last 5 visits to Mosaic, while on the other sideline, Kim Miller, an Argo assistant for 5 years, still perfect as the head man. And with the victory today, the Roughriders would go 4 points up in the West.
The return of Kerry Joseph to Mosaic Stadium here in Regina. And the Argos will get the ball first, so we'll see Kerry Joseph got a standing ovation.
Saskatchewan Roughriders red hot. They've won 12 of their last 13. The only team to beat them in that span was Toronto last year in the regular season finale. Argos will get their hands on the ball first, and we'll have that brisk breeze. Yes, another sellout, and the atmosphere electric, as you'd expect. With Kerry Joseph, the Grey Cup hero, back at Mosaic. And a squib kick bouncing down, and the Argos will take it with Arlen Bruce tripped up as he crossed the 35-yard line. Anton McKenzie, who's been a special teams demon, down first. And we've already had plenty of emotion here. When the Argos came out for the pregame introductions, the fans salute Kerry Joseph.
Sold out crowd, and everyone was wondering what kind of reception last year's outstanding player would get. Well, there's your answer. Appreciation from the sold-out crowd here to say thank you, Kerry, for a great year in 07. And now they'd like to see him go down.
Yes, different reaction now as he gets the boos. And Dominic Dorsey, another former Rough Rider, takes the handoff up to the 43-yard line. Let's set the Argo offense for you that sparkled in that 109-yard scoring drive last week against Edmonton.
Kerry Joseph with 118 yards rushing last week, became the team's leading rusher. Dominic Dorsey will be in the backfield with him. 5 receiving core. Tyler Scott, big part of that drive to win the game last week. Andre Talbot is back, and there's the offensive line. Chad Folk in the middle. Ramsey and Davis on the outsides.
6 for Dorsey, 2nd and 4. Joseph pulls it and then lunges forward. Some problems there, and Scott Schultz brings Joseph down short of the first down as that zone read play had a little mix-up.
Well, there's always a timing issue there with that zone read play, because the quarterback, Joseph, is going to ride that dive with Dominic Dorsey, and there's a certain time when Dorsey is going to clamp down. The running back, he feels it in his stomach, but he doesn't grab it until that certain time expires. And as soon as he feels like that's enough, he'll grab onto it, and that's why he pulled it out of there and hit the ground, and the Argos get a good bounce.
So Mike Vanderjagt to kick the ball away. Again, the breeze at his back. Carl Berman lets it bounce. And this one going into the end zone, and it will be a single point for the Argonauts. So a Vanderjagt single, 71 yards. There is a penalty marker on the play. Ken Lazarick has this assignment.
A 71-yarder is good for the average, but that's not what the Argos wanted. You got the wind at your back. You want to get it out inside the 10 is ideal.
Procedure, legal formation, no end, Toronto. That's declined. 1 point.
So the Roughriders take the football at their 35. Rich Stubler's team strikes first, and here's Darian Durant making his 3rd CFL start, and he billed this as the student versus the mentor.
Wes Cates, key in that offense, in behind him. The former Argonaut Palmer will get a chance to play in the receiving corps.
There's Wes Cates, and Cates with a good run on his opening carry of the game, close to 9. For Cates, the number 2 running back in the league, he needs 54 yards coming in to take over the CFL rushing lead.
That's why we may see some change up in the Argonaut defense. They always go with that 3-man front, and there's the 3 men up front. Jonathan Brown still playing with tender ribs. In the linebacking core, there will be one change. Adrian Mays plays for Kevin Iben in that core. They may go to a 40 front too and bring in Ron Flemons. That means likely Michael Fletcher will go out, and there is your secondary. Same as last week with Willie Middlebrooks back on that corner.
Full 10 yards and a first down for Cates. Up at the 45, this time a fake to Cates. Durant underneath, and he has a Darius Bowman who gets the start on the outside, and he's close to another first down at midfield.
And Darius Bowman will rotate through with Corey Grant. They'll get a chance to both see the field. But what a start for Darian Durant. 2 straight starts where he is well over 300 yards in both. He's thrown 5 touchdown passes, just 2 interceptions, and he's run the ball effectively. A lot of people say that Darian Durant reminds them of Kerry Joseph. Of course, wears the same number, but realistically, they aren't that similar. They're different personalities. They lead differently. That's how close they are. It'll be second down for Saskatchewan.
Well, back-to-back brilliant games in his first 2 starts. 349 against Montreal, 339 against Hamilton.
Yeah, look at that. When you look at the big stars in this league, Burris, Calvillo, Ricky Ray, their first starts in Canadian football weren't as impressive as Darian Durant. Dinwiddie is right up there as well. The touchdown interception ratio is good. I mean, Ray had 6 to 1. Calvillo didn't throw one in his first 2, but more yardage than all of those guys. So tremendous start. It's nice when you get some young guys coming up that have potential.
And he ran for 52 last week on second and short. He'll plunge ahead for the first down. But when we talked to Ken Miller, he didn't want to play up any similarities between the two, even though Durant admits that Kerry Joseph had a huge impact on his development last year.
Yeah, he really leaned on learning the Canadian football game from Kerry Joseph, and gives him a lot of the credit for his early success here. But it's always great for any league when some young new stars are emerging, and Ryan Dinwiddie with a big win this week in Winnipeg, and Darian Durant 2 tremendous starts.
Argo's going to a 40 front now, and they swing it out of the backfield. Cates unable to hang on, and it is considered a forward incomplete pass and not a lateral.
A little bit behind Cates. That's a conversation with Matt Dunnigan about this throw many times, and he says this looks like a real simple throw, but you don't see much of the receiver. In this case, Cates coming out, all you see is sort of the thin end of his shoulder pad, so it's not a big target for a quarterback to hit. That throw a little bit behind him, and he couldn't hang on.
Take a little off the throw into a pretty robust wind here that Saskatchewan's moving into. Second and 10. And Durant has Corey Grant brought down on a good tackle by Byron Parker, short of the first down at the Argo 48.
Both teams sort of feeling out each defense and trying to, a little bit of a chess match going on. You could see the Saskatchewan Roughriders early on trying to get Wes Cates involved. He was involved in a few of those plays. Ask Ken Miller about Darian Durant. Is there anything that surprised him? Anything that he does well that he didn't realize he did well? And that kind of throw that we just saw to Grant there, that long, wide throw, he said he's a lot more accurate than I thought he was.
Dorsey back to accept the kick. Number 2 in all-purpose yards in the Canadian Football League. And Jamie Borum set to punt. Hits that wall of wind. Dorsey fields it. No yards flag. He's dropped at the 27, but they'll tack on 15 for the penalty after a 26-yard punt into the wind. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people.
Wascana Lake, Regina, built in the Depression, man-made lake.
It's a man-made noise here at Mosaic as Kerry Joseph goes to work. Andre Talbot in the game, and he's jolted back by James Johnson on the corner. Talbot pronounced himself ready to go about 3 hours ago. He was a questionable starter for the game.
Goes up against the Saskatchewan defense. No John Chick. Luke Mullender at end. And Jimmy Verdun is going to also play for Marcus Adams, a late scratch. There's the linebacking core that doesn't change, led in the middle by Maurice Lloyd. And the secondary, Scott Gordon is the safety. James Johnson on the outside. Lance Fraser leads that squad with 3 interceptions.
Talbot back from a groin injury that kept him out at 7. Second and 3, nothing doing. right up the middle, and Anton McKenzie, who leads the Roughriders in tackles, filled the gap and forces the Argos to kick it away again.
One of the question marks coming in this year was who would play for Reggie Hunt in that linebacking core, and Anton McKenzie is stacked up right in front of Maurice Lloyd, and they basically stack up all three linebackers, and then that way the offensive line doesn't know which gap they're filling.
So the second consecutive 2-and-out. Vandridge at the kick. Carl Berman fields it at his 19, and he's pushed out by Chris Hardy after a 51-yard kick. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by the 2008 GMC Sierra. Professional grade. Roughriders take over on their own 24-yard line. 5.5 minutes in. Argos a 1-0 lead. Again, the four-man front. Durant back to pass, and it's complete. Matt Dominguez with the catch. His 8th of the season. Kenny Wheaton brings him down.
May see more throwing on first down by Saskatchewan because Toronto will mix things up. This is their normal 34 front. They have 3 down linemen, including Jonathan Brown. There's the 3. And the key to a 30 front is that you have linebackers that are active. They can blitz from every different direction or drop into pass coverage. It's up to the quarterback to figure out which. The way the Argos will make the substitution today is move Adrian Mays out of that and bring in Ronald Flemings, number 99, inside, and they will load up that front and make sure it's tougher to run.
And it was tougher to run there against the four-man front. Wes Cates, short yardage.
So when they bring Flemings in, now what that is putting 4 big bodies on the line of scrimmage, so that now Rael Johnson, Ronald Flemings, you got Adriano Belli and Jonathan Brown. They just eliminate the gaps up front. So the way you can counter that, if Kavis Reed's going to play that 40 front or 4-down lineman on first down, then the Saskatchewan Roughriders likely start to throw a little more on first down. And we'll take a look right now. You see you got Adriano Belli right over the middle. You got Jonathan Brown in there and Rael Johnson, but the 4 linebackers on the field now. So they're going with the 34. They're going to switch back and forth all game long.
We've also got an injured Saskatchewan Roughrider. The left tackle and former Argo Glenn January is down. A little slow to get up, and then after getting up, decided to get right back down. So he's getting attention and will step out for just a moment. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. So Glenn January to the sidelines. Belton Johnson will take over at left tackle. 4 for Cates. 2nd and 6, Saskatchewan. At their 41. And Durant hit as he delivers. It's a jump ball and knocked down. Willie Middlebrooks up against Matt Dominguez, and Darian Durant really took a hit in the pocket from Adrian Mays, who replaces Kevin Iman.
I believe the Toronto Argonauts went with that 30 front, and if Adrian Mays is in the game, that's why, because you got the 4 linebackers, a little stunt up front. You can see 43 come around the corner, and he just nails Darian Durant as he throws the football. A stunt between Michael Fletcher and Adrian Mays, and that's a heavy hit.
And the play by Middlebrooks on the intended receiver, Matt Dominguez. Adrian Mays in his first CFL start. Again, Kevin Iban out of the lineup. An onside kick here. And Dorsey fields it and gets another no yards penalty against Saskatchewan. He's out near midfield, and that'll be a 15-yard penalty. And it looked like they were trying the pooch kick into the wind to get on the football.
With a strong wind like this, the ball will hold up in the air longer, and one of the strategies on the kick teams is to put 2 people on side or 3 to the wide side of the field in a situation like that and see if they can run under. Because if you start behind the kicker, you can go and recover the football.
There's no infraction on the play. 31 Saskatchewan was onside.
So Sean Lucas was behind the kicker, and so no penalty. The Argos will get the football at the Saskatchewan 54-yard line. Both teams have been slow starters this season. Argos with just 11 first quarter points coming in. First down, short drop. That pass sailing out of the reach of Arlen Bruce. Omar Morgan in coverage.
You have a strong win like that, you want to make sure you can put some points on the board when you have it at your back. And Kerry Joseph's trying to get in and out of the huddle as quickly as he can in this quarter.
It's one of the surprises of last week is how impressive the Argo offense was without Arlen Bruce, who was just 3 catches for 31, 6 receivers, 2nd and 10. Joseph has time, and Arlen Bruce can't pull that one down. So the Argo offense spinning its wheels here. 3 consecutive 2-and-outs in the opening quarter.
This is where Mike Vanderjagt a couple times now. That first punt he put in the end zone, good for his average, not so good for what the Argos would like to do, which is to pin Saskatchewan deep when they're into the wind and make them have to punt from their end zone.
Vanderjagt takes something off it, and it will be fielded inside the 5 by James Johnson, lunging ahead to the 11. So the Argos trying to pin the Roughriders after the 49-yard punt. Well, the toast of Saskatchewan for the past 2 weeks is staying on the sidelines after that bone-jarring hit from Adrian Mays. Darian Durant on the bench. There is Mays, and Stephen Giles will come in at quarterback. Giles, who is number 2 today and was number 2 on the depth chart when the season started, only to be replaced in BC in week 2 by Durant. And his first pass to Cody Grant complete. Middlebrooks knocks him out of bounds, but it's a first down for Saskatchewan.
Didn't look like the hit from Adrian Mays caused like a problem with, you know, arms or legs or anything like that, a physical problem. It might be something with his head. He was rocked by Mays here right through the middle and then goes down. He grabbed kind of those ribs, but when you look at him on the bench, he looks like he's just trying to get the cobwebs out. He hasn't thrown the football since going to the bench, though, and Marcus Crandall's not quite ready with the hamstring.
First down, and players offside. Dominguez jumped early, and Willie Pyle for the Argos as well.
This week, the first day of practice, hard practice, Marcus Crandall took the #1 team reps. And after watching practice, Ken Miller, the head
Offside,
coach.
Toronto, number 10, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Ken Miller decided that he just didn't look quite right, was a little bit tentative in some of the throws, didn't really step into the pocket in practice after watching.
Well, welcome back. We apologize for the technical difficulties. Saskatchewan looking at 2nd and a yard. And the option toss, look out, that's a loose football. Michael Fletcher broke through and hit Giles as he tried to pitch it out.
Boy, does he ever come up with the big hit. Michael Fletcher is right here at the left side of the formation. He just shoots the gap, and before this can even get started, this little option play to the left, Stephen Giles is rocked by Michael Fletcher, who feels better every single game out. I have a little theory when it comes to Michael Fletcher. He looked a lot bigger in the first couple of games than last year. And remember, Michael O'Shea in the offseason wasn't sure if he was going to return. They likely would have had to move Fletcher into O'Shea's spot, and he probably bulked up because of it. And now he's getting back down to that active playing weight that he can fly around to the football like he did right there.
So Dorsey awaits just on the Argos side of half and now moves up, ball bouncing across midfield. And the former Rough Rider picks it up. More penalty flags on the no yards as Yannick Carter brought down Dominic Dorsey. Well, the talk of Toronto last week was the drive. 109 yards in 1:16.
Started on the 1-yard line. The key receiver in the drive was Tyler Scott, the rookie, who had 5 catches for 79 yards, all out there on the sideline. He was instrumental, and the touchdown for Kerry Joseph that's what we're used to seeing with Kerry Joseph. But they say often that a play can turn your season around. One play, one game. Certainly one drive can. 12 plays, 109 yards. That was a big one. Won the game.
Joseph was 6 for 7, 85 yards on that drive. Tyler Scott, 5 catches, 79 yards. Argos looking for their initial first down, and there it is. Best starting position of the game, and Arlen Bruce has a catch. And again, the surprise about that drive is they didn't have to lean on number 5, who is their most dangerous weapon in that offense.
Well, yeah, you think in a drive like that from Kerry Joseph, he has to go to the veteran. And Arlen Bruce been around in the league for 7 years, and you look across the board, there's not many others. James Robinson had a big game last week for Toronto. Tyler Scott, that contribution on that long drive. 17 yards to gain.
Argos looked offside. Joseph throws, and that one dropped. Anton McKenzie started running before he secured the football.
Like a little communication problem too, because Anton McKenzie, right in the middle of your screen, he's going to take that deep drop, and it looked like Kerry Joseph wanted his intended target to pull up and stop, and Robinson came all the way across the middle and didn't sit down in the outside zone. McKenzie just let it hit the ground.
Should have been picked. He had an interception last week late against Montreal. 2nd and 10. Haven't seen Joseph run yet. Might take off here. Does throw downfield into the corner, incomplete. James Robinson, the closest man to it for Toronto in double coverage.
Jock Climby said before the game in the panel, and I agree with him, was that the key for Kerry Joseph is running the football. Last week when they won, he had 118 yards rushing, and prior to that, his running numbers for the first 3 weeks were way low, way below his average. He took off last week and ran whenever he opened up and didn't hesitate. That time, he kind of looked to pass as he was running. He probably could have picked up the first down on his own.
So Vanderjagt comes on, attempting a 38-yarder. And Vanderjagt, who has been 8 for his last 9, now 9 for his last 10 after that slow start in Winnipeg. And the Argonauts have a 4-0 lead in a very quiet first quarter here at Mosaic.
Both teams trying to figure out how they're going to handle this wind, I think. It's a little tricky, even if it's behind you. It's tricky to learn how you're going to change your throwing motion. If you throw it as hard, do you play the wind a little? Both teams seem to be trying to figure it out.
CFL on TSN action continues on Thursday. Doubleheader action. Game 1, the Hamilton Tiger Cats take on the Alouettes in Montreal. Game 2, the BC Lions against Edmonton. Live coverage begins at 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 Pacific. Both games available on TSN HD. Darian Durant back in the game and punished again as the Argos get to the quarterback one more time, Riel Johnson. First sack of the year for Johnson.
So Darian Durant takes one series off, and it was a short one. Comes right back in, completely empties the backfield, so the defensive line understand with no back there, no Wes Cates, they can just pin their ears back and get after it, and they did there.
But just the 5th sack of the year for the Argonauts. They had 3 in week 1. And they are last in the CFL in that department. 2nd and 18, flag down. More pressure on Durant. And he just throws it away as Michael O'Shea unloads on the quarterback.
Secondary contained there, meaning that Michael O'Shea is just going to flow to the football depending on which way Darian Durant escapes.
This time the Argos offside.
Offside, Toronto, number 43. 5-yard penalty. Repeat, 2nd down.
Adrian Mays too quick over the line.
Sometimes a linebacker like that will spy the quarterback, especially when you have running quarterbacks like we do in this game on both sides. And Michael O'Shea can stand on the line of scrimmage, kind of spy the quarterback. And if he tries to escape and run, then O'Shea tracks him down. The downside of it is you're taking a linebacker out of your pass coverage to do that.
So 2nd and 13. pressure. Durant gets outside. More penalty markers. And Durant runs out at the Rough Rider bench. Should be a first down as Michael Fletcher finally angled him out.
That'd be very close. He looks like they marked it. Maybe his foot stepped on the stripe just before he went out because they marked it about a yard back.
Doesn't matter because it's holding against Saskatchewan, and Durant's still feeling the effects of the Adrian Mays hit earlier in this quarter.
Yeah, I think he is. You know, he's both of those plays in the pocket. He's looked hesitant to pull the trigger. But the pocket hasn't lasted for long.
Ken Lazarick conferring with Michael O'Shea. As the rain starts to fall here at Mosaic.
Interesting start to this game because these two teams have been so close over the last few years.
Curious about this
Chop
call.
block. Saskatchewan, number 60. 15-yard penalty from the point, ball dead. Third down.
So Gene Mikowski called on a chop block. And that's why it's third down. A chop block on Adriano Belli. And so Borum has to kick into the wind and into the rain. And again, Dorsey awaits at midfield.
A chop block is different than a cut block in that a chop block is when a player is engaged with another player. You get hit below the legs.
Good kick by Borum. Dorsey from his 42 looking for a crease. And he's tripped up. It's the best cover team in the CFL, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and Gene Patrick with a sure tackle on Dominic Dorsey. A 40-yard punt into a breeze that isn't quite as stiff. 5 on the return.
And Mikowski, you know, Mikowski's a straight-up player. Chop blocks are often obviously frowned upon. It's one of those unwritten deals. And I'm sure with Mikowski it wasn't on purpose, but you can see that Belli is engaged with the center. I believe it was, he was engaged inside, and Mikowski got his legs.
Argos have been sputtering on offense. Joseph looked one way, now the other. Third options to run. He'll do that for the first time and skip out close to midfield. And 7 for Kerry Joseph.
I wonder if he was talking to Steve Barato on the sideline and Barato maybe reminded him of why he had so much success a week ago. Barato will let him call his own plays, but as he comes to the bench, he'll always discuss what he saw. In that last series, when Joseph took off to run, he looked to pass. That time you could see there was no hesitation. He got the corner and he took off running the football.
Call it 8, 2nd and 2. Just shy of midfield. Jeff Johnson to give inside, and the York product should have the first down. Met by Anton McKenzie one more time. Kerry Joseph, the first quarterback in Toronto to pass for over 300 and run for over 100 since Doug Flutie in 1997 in one game. Last week as he threw for 343 against the Edmonton Eskimos, along with that 118 yards on the ground.
Yeah, 11.8 yard average rushing the football is going to break down a defense in a hurry. It's one of those things too, when you have a running quarterback, it's disheartening for a defense because they think they've got everybody covered. They've taken away the run threat from the running back, and then your quarterback sneaks out of there and picks up big yards, and it's demoralizing for a defense in a hurry.
We may have to see that quarterback sneak here because it's 3rd and inches. Jeff Johnson just stopped short. Here in the rain in the final minute.
All right, well, we apologize for the transmission problems we're having out of Regina, but as Chris Cuthbert told you when the game began, there were weather concerns, severe weather warning, in fact, in the Regina area. Hopefully it won't last. We'll keep you up to date with what is going on in the game so far. 4-0 Toronto, and we talked so much about Joseph. We'll talk a little bit about Darian Durant, and here's something that we really haven't seen in his previous 2 successful starts. When he won, people are hitting him. He's getting hit.
Yeah, and that's what you want to do defensively. You know what it does to a quarterback. It knocks you out of your rhythm. And you find out how tough somebody is. That's one of the reasons why we've always liked Ricky Ray, right? He takes those types of shots time and time again and just keeps on coming back at you. Now we'll see if Durant will, but I don't know. He doesn't look the same to me, guys, since he took that hit. I know he's back in the game.
Bruised or broken ribs right now from that hit right there.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a rib problem. And here's what they do, and here's what they do with this scheme, and it was fun to watch. With this 3-4 defense, you can stunt guys, and that's just doing with the linebackers here. And you're going to see Cates, and Wes Cates is the running back on this play, who now is too little, too late. He tries to come down the line to pick up Mays, but he's out of position. If he had been in the backfield, he would have been able to pick that up and would have to see it coming. He wasn't able to in that particular situation.
Chuck, awesome scheme by the Toronto Argonauts. As you watch Fletcher right here, he's going to come around. He's going to occupy the center. That frees up the weak side A gap, and by position alone, you're going to watch the defensive or the right tackle Smith here. He's going to drop and he's going to try to block Flemings. Now this is going to completely block Wes from getting over to his responsibility, which is Mays coming through the weak side A gap, and he strikes the ribs of Durant there, really testing his metal, Schultz, and that's a great scheme. And you can't put yourself in those situations if you got a young quarterback, second and long, because a defense like this is certainly going to turn up the dial and dictate to the offense.
And I think Chris, I wanted to ask you, as a tackle, is that 3-4 defense with those linebackers flying around tougher?
Right, if it is timed perfectly. And the issue about that type of stunt is it was timed. The mesh points between the nose tackle, the 2 guards, and the 2 linebackers as they came around was absolutely perfect. The television camera doesn't do it justice. It's not done at that speed. It happens so fast that when you're the guard of the center, you're seeing one guy fly by this way. Now that key instinct tells you somebody else is going to fill the void, but that person, when he meshes at that perfect point, is already there before you can release. It was a perfectly executed stunt at a great time.
And that's defensive coaches breaking that down, watching Wes Cates in the scheme. They probably realize that he's too close to the line of scrimmage in his alignment alone, and they've got him outflanked, basically like a receiver coming off the line of scrimmage, having a defensive back out leveraged and to be able to run an out route. So in my opinion, that's defensive breakdown and guys knowing what their responsibilities are and what they have to do based on film study.
But you're right. I think Durant is not the same. He was really grimacing as he walked towards the sidelines in the previous series, and the injuries are starting to pile up for the Riders. They've compiled this 4-0 record despite having injuries to Matt Dominguez. John Chick is now out for 4 to 6 weeks. Marcus Adams missing off their line today. Of course, Marcus Crandall's already out. We may see Stephen Giles, and just to remember for the rest of this game, just a reminder for the rest of you, he's the guy they got from Edmonton in the Fred Perry trade. Quickly, let me ask you about Kerry Joseph and the Argonauts offense and how they're executing. Up 4-0. By the way, it is the end of the first quarter now.
Well, we talked about Kerry Joseph and the fact that Saskatchewan wants to keep him in the pocket. That's what they've been able to do so far, and he's proven them right. He's not hitting anybody from the pocket right now.
What's really odd to me
use his legs.
is they've been able to contain Kerry Joseph 3 2-and-outs, but at the same time, the Argonauts gained field position based on the returns of Dominic Dorsey and the punting of Mike Vanderjet. That has been a surprise to me.
Yeah, they had the wind at their backs that first quarter. Now they'll be facing the wind. If they stumble going into the second quarter with the offense and lack of production, then they could find themselves in the short end of the stick there as far as the score goes. But I look at Kerry Joseph, and he had a couple opportunities to run, which was the key to success last week, but he didn't take that opportunity. He tried to force the football down the field. I think he's just got to settle down here a little bit. I think emotions have kind of got him, a little riled up at this point, and he needs to just weather the storm and get back into a rhythm.
And that's coaching too, because there are plays you can call that can allow Kerry Joseph to settle down. You don't have to ask him to keep pushing the ball down the field and hitting those 15-yard curls and the dig patterns, those tougher patterns. Let him throw some swing screens. Let him throw some wide receiver screens. Let him get into a rhythm. And get him out of the pocket. They had one successful play on a bootleg where they actually got him out of the pocket. He was throwing on the run. He does that well. Let him do more of that.
Well, I don't know about him getting into a rhythm right now. He is going to get a chance to settle down. So are all the players, because we've just been told there is a hail and lightning delay at Mosaic Stadium. Just like we saw last week in Regina, there was a weather delay that caused the delay of the opening kickoff in the game against Montreal, and they got the rest of the game in. That blew away, and it was never an issue the rest of the night. So hopefully that will be the case here again right now. So we will take a break right now. We'll come back and show you some highlights that we've seen from the rest of week 4, and there were some great games, and we'll update you, and we'll dance around here until this game gets going on again. So you're watching the CFL on TSN. 4-0 Argos in a rain delay right now. Welcome back to the CFL on TSN. For those of you just tuning in, wondering what are those guys doing here? It's a weather situation in Regina. Hail and lightning in the area. They've taken everybody off the field. We saw this a week ago in Regina. And
so hail and lightning equals panel.
Equals us. That's right. Sadly, sad but true. But the good news is we've had some great games here in week 5. And what we're going to do now is take a moment here to take you back to Thursday night. You talk about great quarterback stories. One of the headlines of the week was Winnipeg Blue Bomber head coach Doug Barry making a decision to bench last year's most outstanding player runner-up Kevin Glenn and insert Ryan Dinwiddie to lead the Bombers offense. The guy had only made one previous start, which was in the Grey Cup. So with the Bombers coming in at 0-4 against a very good Calgary team, we're going to pick it up with 48 seconds remaining. Calgary has just scored on a Henry Burris touchdown to Jermaine Copeland. They hand it over to Ryan Dinwiddie, and here's what happened Thursday night.
Javon Johnson, Fred Reed deep. Good DeAngelis kickoff. Reed from his 11. Reed still going across the 35, 36-yard line. 41 seconds remaining for Ryan Dinwiddie, who's been great tonight. And those missed field goals will haunt the Bombers if they don't win it tonight.
Good news for Ryan Dinwiddie is he's got Terrence Edwards back in the lineup and in that huddle. He left the last series with leg cramps. What a night in his second start, but it's not over yet. He's got 41 seconds to get him in field goal range.
Will we get the first overtime game of 2008? Screen, Roberts. Charles Roberts, first down, up at the 48-yard line. Cerna's longest this year, 48. He's got a 45-yarder tonight.
Now we get to see if the young Ryan Dinwiddie can run the hurry-up offense.
13 for Roberts. Time whistled in. Clock runs. 3-man rush. Dinwiddie steps up. Has a man open. Franklin holds on. Bounces off. And what hard running to the 35. They're in field goal range with 20 seconds left.
Field goal range, but it's a long one. It would be a 42-yarder if they don't move any further.
And Franklin takes a knee.
Franklin comes all the way across. Good time by the O-line for Dinwiddie. He finds a hole. Franklin just kind of goes in a deeper layer. Hangs on to the ball. He's got field goal range, and Terrence Edwards goes down to give Doug Barry some time. Couple of thoughts here now for the Winnipeg offense. Do they try and get it into the middle and try and kick a field goal on second down, just in case they botch it, to give themselves a chance on third down if they botch the hole? How
or do they go for the win?
Well, that's another thought. You're at the 35-yard line. You could take one crack at it.
You got 2 or 3 plays. You got 2 plays anyway, don't you? Before the field goal, 20 seconds.
You've got 2 plays, but you better manage that well. You don't want to give out your chance, give away your chance to tie this football game because you've already got field goal range.
You have a timeout. And Edwards makes his way off.
You could think screen.
Oh, that's Franklin. Excuse me, Franklin.
That was Franklin,
who was jolted first by Richard Carey and then finished off by Dwayne Carpenter. Not sure if that was a designated knee or not. But he now is out for 3 plays. Dinwiddie looking for everything for Robbie Bryant. Touchdown!
field goal. But look at the accuracy in the throw.
Against Brandon Browner. There's a new quarterback in Winnipeg.
Oh, baby. How about that?
What a football game. Just another night in the CFL. 450 yards for Ryan Dinwiddie on the night. And Robbie Bryant has a go-ahead touchdown that's 12 seconds away from being a winning touchdown.
The accuracy on the throw, and keep in mind the pressure that Ryan Dinwiddie is under and has been under coming into this game tonight. He has been asked to turn the fortunes of this football team around in his second start in pro football. And rather than get conservative, he goes after it with an absolutely perfect throw. And he deserves to celebrate.
6 for 152 for Bryant. It was set up by a...
And there is the final 32-28 as Winnipeg gets its first win of the season in style. Ryan Dinwiddie, 24 of 39, 450 yards passing, 1 touchdown pass, which won the game, and no sacks allowed by the Bombers. And, you know, guys, Cuthbert and Suter made the point exactly. Instead of just taking the field goal, he did what he did all night. He says, we're taking it, boys. Let's go take this right now. And we should kind of admit to everybody, prior to the game in our pregame show, we all thought that was a bad call by Doug Barry to put him in. And we all kind of ate humble pie afterwards because he stepped up and got it done, didn't he, Matt?
Oh, he certainly did. And he did it without Charles Roberts having a good game. You know, our criticism of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers is he's got to get Charles Roberts off and running. He had 14 carries for 36 yards. So this kid actually went out there and played like that and put up 450 yards minus Charles Roberts. Now, they didn't give up on the run. They tried to control the line of scrimmage, but they utilized Roberts well on that last drive. Schultz, you saw it. I saw you making notes, right? He put that 13 yards catch out of the backfield, got them going. And to me, that was critical at that point. But this kid was simply amazing the way he pushed it down the field. That's one ball game. Yeah. Okay, so the jury's still out as far as I'm concerned.
That's what I mentioned. Sure. He did it without Armstrong as well.
That's right.
Armstrong was one of the top 5 receivers in the league, had 0 catches in a game when Dinwiddie threw for 450 yards.
He had a good one-on-one going with Browner, the DB, for a lot of the game, didn't he?
Yeah, he drew some flags. I mean, it wasn't like he didn't contribute.
Right.
But who would have guessed that Dinwiddie would go 450 and Armstrong wouldn't have?
Well, I thought there were 2 game balls. Number 1 did go to Ryan Dinwiddie. That was an outrageous number of passes completed under pressure. But how about the rookie, Robbie Bryant, 6'1", 191. He had 6 catches for 152 yards. He also had the game winner. That's outstanding work. Remember, guys, this is a team that is feeling the absence of Milt Stegall. Now, I'm not saying Milt is saying, my God, look at this rookie doing what I usually do. But you know what? The rookie's getting it done. Now, we always talk about quarterbacks and how to be successful. You got to have your receivers. You got to have your blockers. It's nice if you have a running game. Guys like Robbie Bryant, a rookie who comes out of nowhere, I think that means everything to their future success.
You know, one thing I noticed about that game-winning drive, it was very different from some of the other game-winning drives we've seen recently. So you look at Jarris Jackson and the way he got it done, basically nickel and diming down the football field. And he was successful winding up with a field goal about the same amount of distance. And then you look at what Kerry Joseph did last week and the way he used his wide receivers. He used primarily Tyler Scott on little fly-in dives and hitches, and then ran it. And then you have Dinwiddie comes in, a little dump to the back, and then
Roberts.
Big play over the middle, and then the long bomb down the sideline.
That's the play that was most impressive to me was the Franklin reception and the way that he stepped up in the pocket, guys, and kept his eyes downfield. Last year, all the criticism was, you know, when he stepped up in the pocket, you know, he could have run for a first down. He tried to throw it, ball was picked off by Johnson, and a ball game. He learned from that mistake and he went forward, and we saw that, you know, translate into production on the football field. He stepped up in the pocket. He hit Franklin for the critical first down, putting putting that team in field goal range, but that wasn't enough for the young kid. He went for it all.
And remember,
just before we go, I was curious. We talked about Dinwiddie, and I know we'd all thought that he wasn't going to have that kind of success. And I'm curious because you've talked a lot about his arm strength or lack thereof, and I'm wondering if, did you all see enough of an arm for this guy to be successful? I mean, we saw the poise, we saw the results, but did we see enough of arm strength this guy can be a starter in the CFL?
Well, I've been asked all week long, ever since Ryan had this ball game, Jock, by many people, were you surprised? And well, I was surprised, but more so, I was pleased. I was pleased for his success because the Bombers needed to win, and it looked good on this kid because he is a competitor. But I'm still not seeing the arm strength that is going to make him a consistent quarterback. So, nothing against Ryan Dinwiddie. I'm just seeing.
No, I totally agree with you.
I think it's going to be difficult for him to have continued success.
There were 3 footballs there, guys, that were ducks. They were just floating all around. Yeah. He's got to throw bullets consistently. They will pick off those ducks. He's got to turn them into bullets.
And keep in mind, the Bombers were also reeling with the loss of Barron Simpson for the year with a torn pectoral muscle, and that will be felt, that absence, as they move forward to face the Toronto Argonauts next Friday night. So a big win for the Bombers on Thursday. This is the scene right now in Regina. It's a live picture, still under a weather delay. It looks as though, oh boy. They're still in a holding pattern, and all the fans are ducking for cover wherever they can find it. These guys aren't going anywhere. They're staying right there, and they're waiting for this game to get back underway, and it will. We'll be back with more. You're watching the CFL on TSN. Welcome back to the CFL on TSN. Dave Randorf with Jock Climbey, Matt Dunnigan, and Chris Schultz. It is 4-0 Toronto through 1 quarter of play in Regina over the Roughriders. We're in a weather delay right now, and for the very latest information on what exactly is going on and how wet and nasty it is, let's take you live to Mosaic Stadium. Here are Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter. Guys.
Thank you, Dave. It's become a regular feature of games at Mosaic. Last week was delayed by, 50 minutes before the start of the game. We're into 15 minutes of delay in a holding pattern at the moment. And when they decide, and they believe the storm cell is just about by, they'll give both teams about 10 minutes to warm up again. Some spectacular rain, hail, wind, and just about everything else. What's going on in the rooms?
Well, right now, both of these teams who didn't get out to a good start in that first quarter offensively have a chance to actually have an offensive meeting now. They have some time to look at what the defenses were presented, and they could come out and say, okay, this is the changes and adjustments we have to make. The other thing for Saskatchewan, which is crucial in this case, perfect timing in that Darian Durant took that big hit in the first quarter. It didn't look like when he came back into the game that he had all the faculties working the proper way. He was taking a little bit more time. He didn't want to pull the trigger, and this will help him regroup. So they get a chance to meet, and some of the guys that are banged up a little bit get a chance to regroup.
Neither team very sharp in the first 15 minutes. Would you say that was strictly weather related, or maybe this Kerry Joseph stuff was a little bit of a factor as well?
A little bit, but I'm going to put it on the defenses. I think both defenses in the first quarter played very well. They had a good game plan ready. And again, I watched as the offensive coaches upstairs here bolted down to the locker room because they got a chance now to get on the board, get their offenses together, and see if they can come up with a way to adjust to what the defenses have been doing.
So again, we are still in a holding pattern here at Mosaic Stadium. They believe the worst of the storm has gone by, and we certainly hope that's the case. There was actually a tornado warning in effect for the area. You know, one of the officials told me that it wasn't if, it was when this storm was going to hit, and he had it pegged between 5 and 6, and he nailed it.
And this is the heavy stuff. It is coming down, but the game will never, in football, never be postponed due to rain or hail. It is postponed due to the threat of lightning, and that's just for safety reasons for the players. And so that's what it was. It was the threat of lightning. The rain was coming down. In fact, the fans loved it at the beginning until the hail became the size of golf balls, and then they bolted for the underground. But looks like that storm is passing.
These fans are used to it. It's all part of the Mosaic Stadium experience. We're over 20 minutes in delay, and again, when they decide we're ready to start again, there'll be a 10-minute warm-up period as we send it back from rainy Regina to the comfortable confines of the panel studio.
That's right. That's right. There's no golf ball size hail in here. They are a hardy lot in Regina, but yeah, that'll scatter just about anybody. But I'm sure they'll be back in full force. You know, they are selling all the rider gear and the tickets. They are just going beers.
Tons of beer.
But everything, life is good in Regina to be a Rider fan right now. We talked about that game. So what we're going to do now is take the time, in case you missed it, to recap what happened on our Friday night doubleheader, starting with game one. This was Edmonton and Hamilton. First game of Friday night doubleheader, and the good news for Ticats fans, Jesse Lumsden back in the lineup after missing a week. First quarter, Eskimos driving. Ricky Ray throws over to the middle of Jason Tucker, and he is hit hard by Ryan Glasper, and it was a long and tough night for Tucker, as you will soon see. There was next to no offense in the first half. We're going to move to the third quarter here, and Printers is hit by Montez Murphy, suffered a thumb injury on his throwing hand, and that's the last we saw of Casey Printers. Still in the third, and this is a very scary incident here, as Tucker again is involved in a heavy collision, helmet to helmet, with Joaquin Bradley. Bradley was down, but Tucker was really down. The ambulance came out and took him to hospital. We will update you on his situation momentarily once these highlights are over, but his season is done. Fourth quarter, Cats go back to Lumsden, and there's Jesse. Finally, the Ticat fans had something to cheer about. It was 13-9 Hamilton, but the Eskimos come back out. Ricky Ray rolls out, spots Kelly Campbell. This guy's a speedster. He was open, caps off an 11-play, 88-yard drive, and the Eskimos retake the lead. Under 30 seconds to play, Richie Williams in at quarterback, buying some time, throwing downfield, and Prache Rodriguez comes up with a 47-yard completion. Last gasp effort into the end zone, and it is picked off. Should be noted, prior to that play, they found Woodcock open, and he could have waltzed into the end zone, but unfortunately, Pat Woodcock had 1 foot out of bounds, and there you go. 19-13 is the final. Hamilton 1-4. Edmonton splits on their Eastern road trip, losing in Toronto last week, and then winning Friday night in Hamilton. Now, the update on Jason Tucker is this. He had full range of motion of his legs and his hands, and he was talking after the game. He had a neck surgery today in a Hamilton area hospital. I'm told that he is resting comfortably. Hopefully, maybe he's watching here today. And if he is, certainly on behalf of all of us here at the CFL on TSN, we wish Jason Tucker, wish you the best in your recovery. And he wants to come back. And it was a very serious injury, but doctors expect a full recovery. So a speedy recovery to you, Jason. Thoughts on the ball game, Schultze? We'll start with you.
Well, I think on the positive side for the Edmonton Eskimos, their trip, they split. They got 1 win out of 2. Not bad. They could have had 2 wins, but they got the one, so they're back home. They got a quick game coming up. For the Hamilton Ticats, they got to work on their protection system, their receivers catching the football. It's not just a quarterback issue. It was 8 sacks, and each one of those sacks, somebody didn't do an assignment, whether it be physical or mental. So in the big picture, Hamilton is really struggling right now. In the smaller picture, Edmonton split it. They're on their way for another game.
Shows you how much of it, Edmonton the week before against Toronto was lit up for 550 some odd yards offensively, and their defense really got back on track, it seemed like, in Hamilton. How much is it the Edmonton defense, or is it just a lack of production from the Hamilton offense that we saw?
That's a good question. I would say a combination of both. I think what they did, they had an excellent game plan going in, that they were going to hassle the quarterback all the way that they possibly could with the blitzes from all the different angles. I always give credit whenever a football team plays well to the team that was proactive. So I give a lot of credit to the Edmonton Eskimos first and foremost.
Sure.
Hamilton. You know, I thought the Richie Williams drive at the end looked a lot like Dinwiddie's drive. I mean, in terms of the approach that he took to trying to win the football game, pushing the ball down the field, and you said it, Dave. I mean, Pat Woodcock had half a foot out of bounds as he caught the ball. Otherwise, he's walking in the end zone, and we have 2 new superstars that, hey, would be probably creating quarterback controversy.
Which leads to the question.
Had they won.
Which leads to the question. If Printers can go, his thumb is okay, is there a decision to be made there? Because Casey Printers still has not thrown a touchdown pass in 5 football games.
Well, Williams, we watched last year. I didn't see anything in this game that makes me say, yeah, Williams needs to be the guy at this stage. But I certainly have seen now enough from Casey to wonder what's going on with this quarterback. Because for the Casey Printers that we knew and loved back at BC, there is very little sign. And I don't know what you got to do if you're Charlie Taft to inspire Casey Printers to go back to his running ways, his run and gun ways that he had at BC.
Well, you can tell his confidence is not the same as it was when he was a BC Lion. Now, the truth of the matter is he didn't have the receivers that he had when he was with the BC Lions, but you see it coming. The young kid, Rodriguez, Rodriguez.
Prochet,
excuse me. Prochet, Rodriguez. Chris Bauman. Those are two kids that I think one's going to develop, one is developing. So they have to find two more receivers, whether it be a Pat Woodcock or the other ones they have, to step forward.
They got Walker, and then Tony Miles was on the IR last week. So, you know, there's a couple of receivers there.
But they have to have the same success as the big 6'5" kid
That's right.
does.
So are you going, you know, and we've talked about that. The receiving core of the Hamilton Tigers, does Casey have enough weapons to work with? And, hey, Richie Williams is working with those same weapons out there the other night with just a little over a quarter and a half of work, and he put up more production than we saw Casey put up his 2.5 quarters worth of work. So I'm thinking that Richie Williams right now has more of an edge with his bigger arm and his mobility and his willingness to do whatever it takes to play this game.
Willingness to let receivers make plays. That's what we talked about Dinwiddie doing. And we were talking about this being like the Kahari Jones of old. Kahari Jones had a lot of success in Winnipeg by simply chucking the ball down the field and letting a guy like Leroy Simon when he had him in Winnipeg and Milt Stegall make plays for you. And I know Hamilton hasn't got a Leroy Simon in their lineup. They hasn't, they don't have a Milt Stegall. But find one.
Give him a chance.
And the catch that Rodriguez made there in that critical situation is exactly what you need from your receivers, and Richie got it. So let's see if anybody else can step up.
Richie's commanding that. He's giving those guys that opportunity. There's an edge there that he's bringing that we haven't seen Casey. And, we talked about 3 or 4 years ago, and where's Casey? Well, hey, what have you done for me lately? This is a business of you got to produce, and he hasn't been producing. I see Richie Williams producing right now. I say you move forward.
Speaking of G-Roy Simon, not everybody has one of these G-Roys in their lineup, but the Lions do. And it was a big night for G-Roy Simon and the Lions in Game 2 of our Friday night doubleheader as they were hosting the Montreal Alouettes. And there is G-Roy, just 4 yards shy of the franchise record for receiving yards, and he gets it done early. Right there with that reception, 19-yard grab, passes Jim Young, old Dirty 30, who donned the 81 G-Roy Simon t-shirt after that. Late in the first, 7-3 Owls, Anthony Calvillo to Kerry Watkins. Montreal was rolling early, 17-6 at the half. Opening possession of the third, Calvillo goes right back to work, capping a long drive, going into Brian Bratton. That's a career touchdown pass, 298 for Calvillo, 24-6. Owls up 11 now, and here comes Ian Smart. And this may have been your TSN turning point as he follows the blocking up the middle, breaks the tackle of the kicker Damon Duval, and takes it 91 yards to pay dirt. Now, early fourth, BC with a little momentum. Jarius Jackson to Paris Jackson. Now it's Lions by 3. Yes, indeed. But hold on. Ensuing possession, Calvillo finds Brian Bratton. 75 yards the other way. Touchdown pass number 299 for Calvillo. Now the Owls have the lead back. Under a minute to go. Jackson to Brett Anderson, a guy who's been incredibly versatile for the Lions. Jason Claremont gets the ball back. Drive continues. Jackson to Joe Smith. That sets up Paul McCallum, who was 4 for 4 at this point, make it 5 for 5 as time winds down and the BC Lions win their second in a row. I'll check that. They have now won 3 straight, 36-34 in a game that was not going their way at a half, and they exploded in the second half, and now Montreal's on a bit of a losing streak. They've lost 3 in a row, and they lose by 2 in a place where they just never seem to win. They have a very difficult time winning in Vancouver. This game was theirs. They let it get away, Jock.
It is a tough place to play, normally because of that travel. And we talked about it the other day. That travel west is really tough on football teams. Montreal chose to stay out west after the game in Saskatchewan, which was a great move. And I think we saw evidence of how that benefited the football team. They had energy. They didn't lose that game because they didn't have any legs.
Yeah, we were talking about it. As we're watching the game here, I know everybody was talking about it. We're talking about the bounce in their step. We saw Bratton and bounce in his step. We saw Avon Coburn. In the first half, we saw Avon Coburn.
3 carries in the second half.
I don't understand that.
Yeah,
they lose the last 3 in a row, and the first 2 they're running Avon Coburn, and they're running the first half all over BC. They're up 17-6 at half, and then he's non-existent in the second half, and they lose the ball game. That should be telling you something there if I'm Montreal Alouettes.
I think they just got impatient, right? And they wanted to push the ball down the field, and Anthony was hot. He had a hot hand. I don't think he wanted to hand the ball off anymore.
He's had a hot hand all season long,
but
they've lost their last 3.
Yeah.
The 2 losses that they had, the one in Saskatchewan and this one in BC, you can rationalize and say that they were both in the fourth quarter. But that is the most important quarter in football. So I think Mark Trestman, when he's evaluating the team, and he's going through, man, we were hot in the first quarter. We kept it close all the way through, but that fourth quarter is an issue. You see it with Calgary, too. They've lost 2 games in the fourth quarter on singular plays. So that's the challenge for Montreal now. When they get into the next time, when there's a fourth quarter game and it's tight, that's where your leadership comes over and you have conversations about, guys, don't forget the adversity we've been through in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, you talk about fourth quarter, and that's where we saw Joe Smith step it up,
That's right.
And we talked a lot
yards.
about Joe Smith going in that football game and his attitude towards, you know, a game of football in itself.
Right.
But guys, would you say he went out and produced that night for the BC Lions?
I was going to ask you, and to refresh everybody's memory, Joe Smith missed a couple of games. Stephen Logan came in and was very good, and there was a lot of talk about Joe Smith's focus and commitment to the team, the football team, because he wasn't really, you know, he's gardening and reading books and things while the games are being played. But so all eyes were on him as this game started, and I can think of a couple tough third down conversions, that big play there in the final drive.
You're a bit of a gardener, aren't you, David?
No.
Yes, you are. Don't tell the viewers the truth.
He's got some great parsley. His cilantro is outstanding.
So getting back to Joe Smith, I think his job is safe, wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't think we saw much of Joe Smith in the first half, and we were all wondering where's the intensity, where's the explosion, where's the attack in the line of scrimmage? We saw it in the second half because we were all sitting here saying, oh, that's a classic Joe Smith run. Oh, there's a classic Joe Smith run. Rumbling, bumbling, getting down the field. Yeah, he's a running back.
It was almost like you see a collective sigh of relief on the sidelines of the BC Lions, including the coaching staff. And there's, there's Joe. That's the Joe we love. Yeah.
Hey, Schulte, guess what?
What?
Players are back out on the field.
That's
Regina.
good. Good news from
They're back out
Dave.
there, everybody. It's 4-0 Toronto. They're walking back out to Mosaic Stadium, the turf right now. And we were talking about 10 minutes or so before the game restarts. And that will start at the beginning of the second quarter. We're going to take another break, and we'll be right back on the CFL on TSN. Welcome back to our telethon here at the CFL on TSN. Ring those phones, everybody. Ring them phones. It's 4-0 Toronto over Saskatchewan. The players are all back out on the field. And we're going to go there. Calm down, Schultz. See, the football game will start again. I know you're a little antsy, that's for sure. Anyhow, let's go right back to Canada, or not Canadians, that's in Winnipeg. Let's go back to Mosaic Stadium in Regina and get an update from Chris Cuthbert. And, oh, look at that. Looks like the weather's getting better. Chris Cuthbert and Glenn Suter, fill us in on what's happening, boys.
Yes, the clock running down on this warm-up period as we are getting set to play again after just a typical awesome prairie storm with hail and winds blowing from different directions. And these fans took cover for some time, but they are relishing just another wild day at Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah, lots of weather in here, but just for the safety of the players, the threat of lightning is now gone by. They'll have their warm-up, and it was a chance for them to get in there. There's still lots of heavy water in the end zones where the drainage is trying to catch up to all of that rain in such a short amount of time. But the guys got to get warmed up again. They got to get the muscles loose. They got to get ready to play again, and you can bet there's been some offensive adjustments on both sides of the ball.
And Darian Durant has had time to collect himself after a heavy hit from Adrian Mays in that opening quarter of play. So we're getting set. We're about 5-6 minutes away from resuming action with the start of the second quarter here at Mosaic Stadium. And strangely enough, conditions now are going to be just about ideal. Obviously, the field is wet, but the wind has diminished. The sun's coming out, and we should have good conditions for football. But the weather story has really stolen the thunder of the Kerry Joseph return to Regina, at least for the time being.
Well, it did, and you know, it started, he comes off the bus, everyone wondering what this crowd, which is a sellout here, when he stepped off the bus, how would they react? I mean, would this be a crowd that wanted to sort of boo the guy who's now the bad guy on the Toronto Argonauts after the trade in the offseason, or how would they welcome Kerry Joseph? Here's a guy that was very involved in the community while he played here. He was introduced and got a standing ovation, and I'm not surprised at all by the reaction. This is a fan base that absolutely loves their team and loves the game. They want, obviously, their guys to win. This is the President's ring that is handed out to a Roughrider every year for his contributions on and off the field. That happened just before kickoff. Standing ovation for the guy who is very important in the community as well. And Chris, you mentioned in the beginning of the game, I think maybe he was a little nervous. I mean, you know, maybe wanting to force it a little bit, and the first few throws were a little high. So you know, maybe there was this part of Kerry Joseph that was saying, I really want to have a big start to the game, and now he's probably settled down more.
Yeah, 3 straight 2-and-outs to begin. 3 for 7 for 32 yards in that first quarter. We didn't see him run much. Twice right near the end of the first quarter, 2 for 11 in that category, and I think that's an area we're expecting more from today.
Yeah, he's going to take off and run more, and that little meeting, that break for the weather, will allow he and Steve Barato, the offensive coordinator, to get together and look at the first quarter and say, okay, what didn't we do that we did last week? That's what they didn't do. They didn't run him enough.
Under 4 minutes left in the warm-up clock here at Mosaic Stadium before we get set to resume with the second quarter of action. But right now, back to Dave Randorf.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Glenn. I couldn't agree with both of them more about the fan reaction when Joseph came out for the warm-up. I never for a second thought he would get booed in Regina after what he did for them last year on and off the field, and I think everybody agrees. Good on the fan base in Regina. So what's going on in the rooms during a delay like this? Is there a lot of coaching, a lot of talk about adjustments, or guys just kind of... What do you do? What happens, Schultze?
Well, to be honest with you, the guys are kind of checking if they're sure their pain pills are timed properly. So they're kind of looking at their aspirins and figuring out, should they take another aspirin towards the game? Hey, that is
another aspirin.
That is an honest answer. But here's the advantages for Saskatchewan, because Darian Durant now, he can take off his shoulder pads. They can look at his ribs, his shoulder, whatever it may be, and make an accurate diagnosis as to what is going on. Now, if there's an issue, sit him. If he's healthy, play him. That's simple.
I thought you were going to say, or give him pain pills.
Yeah. You said that. I didn't say that. I was just talking the truth here.
You know, one of the things that's probably going on in the Toronto locker room is Kerry Joseph is being surrounded by a lot of receivers right now who want to tell them that he's open, because that's what happens when you become the play caller. As a receiver, instead of going to the coach at halftime or when you're locked in between quarters in a break like this and saying, hey, coach, I can beat this guy, I'm open. You now go to your quarterback, and now you got guys in your ear, which is one of the reasons why sometimes coaches have taken away that play calling responsibility. I know it happened with Anthony Cavill when we were in Montreal. Anthony was tired of having guys like me in his ear. And so, but you didn't mind that, Matt. I mean, I know that you like to call your own plays, and you probably would just tell a guy, look, I hear you. Okay, I'm fine, you're open.
You got to take all that in and simulate it, and then you've got to digest it and come out with the, with the right, outcome when you get on the football field. But I look at what's going on with Saskatchewan, and I think it's a great opportunity for those guys to get their blocking squared away, because they can't be putting themselves in second and long situations, because that is where they're getting in trouble right there, and that's when you're seeing the Toronto defense dictate to them offensively. Great opportunity for them to get together, figure that out, and find ways to be more successful on 1st and 10. In my opinion, that's getting the ball to Wes Cates, whether it's screens or running the football. He's only got 3 touches. Get him the football.
Because that's a real challenge for any offensive line to have to deal with a 3-4 and a 4-3 in the same football game. So you talk about halftime adjustments. Yeah, there's a board up there, and there are coaches with X's and all over the place with the 2 style of defenses that they're seeing.
You go check with me at the line. You call 2 plays, 1 for either one, and you go up there, and you're going to be in the right situation no matter what. That's the way you handle that.
All right, so Anthony Calvillo got tired of you in his ear?
You know what he's talking about.
I know exactly how he feels.
Can I throw to Regina? Or,
we're done. We're done here. We get to go.
Come on, let me throw.
Okay, go ahead, John. Go ahead.
All right, let's go back to Mosaic Stadium. Take it away, guys. We're looking forward to hearing your call in the second quarter.
All right, from one Queens alum to another. Welcome back to Mosaic. You can see the fans still in a celebratory mood as they have returned to their seats. Teams are back on the field. We're just under a minute from resuming, but let's check in with Ray Morrison.
Yeah, it's a great situation here as far as this new turf is concerned. It has drained terrifically. A lot of stretching in both dressing rooms, but as far as Darian Durant is concerned within that break, he said all I could do was take some painkillers, so he plans to come out and give it a shot here as far as this Rough Rider offense is concerned, Chris.
Fans are revved up, as you can hear. They want to see some football. Darian Durant trying to collect himself. And we'll get set to resume play. 4-0 after 1 quarter on a 71-yard single and a field goal by Mike Vanderjagt. And Darian Durant taking off
doesn't look
the
right.
pad, so he is not ready to go in.
Well, the Toronto Argonauts have the ball. He has a few minutes, but something is not right. Whether it be his pads that he's putting back on, or if the painkillers haven't kicked in yet.
Argos with the ball at the Saskatchewan 38, 1st and 10. And Joseph pumps, flag down. And Joseph taken down at the 35-yard line. Deke Bake, the newcomer, into the lineup with his first tackle.
Well, you know, it's tough, especially for the offenses. Offenses are all about timing and getting into a rhythm and flow. It's tougher for the offense.
Holding number 66, 10-yard penalty. Repeat first down.
Jude St. John playing in his 170th game.
It's tougher for the offense to get back into that rhythm, back into that flow. Although both of these offenses struggled a little in the first quarter, that kind of break in the middle of the game, tougher for the offensive side than the defensive side.
So first and 20. Back of the Rough Rider 48. Dorsey the lone setback. And Joseph stands in. He finds Arlen Bruce. And Bruce has the catch at the Saskatchewan 38. Back to the original line of scrimmage. Time for our first quarter stats, brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Now this is what I'm talking about. The offensive struggle. Well, you don't want to see that. Here, let me try this one. There you go. Not a lot of yards for both offenses in this game, especially considering how Darian Durant has played over his last two and the fact that Kerry Joseph has come off a big game.
Second and 10. And Joseph looks to the sidelines. There's the catch. James Robinson, who had the big game last week with 10 catches, 194 yards. And he is out very close to the first down.
I had a conversation with him just prior to kickoff tonight, and Robinson said down at the bottom here, he basically told me he comes from arena football. And he said, you know, you could put an arena football field long ways across the Canadian football peak field. That's how much wider and more room I have to work with, and he loves the Canadian Football League.
3rd and inches. And Joseph again will sneak for the first down. Well, Robinson, we mentioned 10 catches. He also has the longest pass reception of the season, the 90-yard touchdown catch against Edmonton last week.
You know, and what I liked about what he did is he ran a lot of short crossing routes right over the middle, so he showed that he's courageous, can do that, doesn't have a problem if that's where you're usually going to take those big hits. But he took a little slant, and he took that one his longest run, and took that from about a 10-yard throw the distance. That's encouraging if you're Steve Barato.
Double tight ends. First down. And on a roll, Kerry Joseph sets up, and he has Arlen Bruce in front of Omar Morgan, and it's another first down, stepping out at the Saskatchewan 13.
Arlen Bruce was the only receiver on that side, and Kerry Joseph's going to use play action here. He's going to fake it to Dorsey and then come on to the outside on a full roll. And again, all of a sudden, Kerry Joseph, as we get back to football, is starting to run the ball more. Now he puts the pressure on the defense. If they don't get out there, he'll take off and run. If they get back, he can go ahead and throw that.
3rd catch for Arlen Bruce. Again, Dorsey, the lone setback. They fake to Dorsey. Pressure into the corner. Jump ball. Robinson didn't get a foot down. Caught the ball, but Omar Morgan in tight coverage had forced him to the sidelines.
And he took that one definitely out of bounds, but that's the type of catch he would have made in arena football, right against the boards, and have to out-jump a defensive back. There's a little bit easier to cover for DBs in arena, but there you go. He's both feet on that white stripe. A nice catch nonetheless. But they ever need some of these young receivers, Chris, to step up like they did last week. They're inexperienced after Arlen Bruce and Andre Talbot.
Best drive of the game. 2nd and 10. Joseph audibly. Tough with this crowd. Joseph steps up. It's wide open. Kerry Joseph, touchdown. How often have we seen that? He's done it again, calling his own number and reaching the end zone.
He absolutely loves this play. There's no spy on the play. You're going to see the middle open up because Kerry Joseph this time audibled at the line. He saw something. He saw nobody in the middle. And now what he wants to do is he wants to hold off. Now it breaks open, and now he's got a running lane right down the middle. And it's awful tough to stop him once he gets that momentum going forward.
Similar touchdown against Hamilton, also last week against Edmonton. There was an unforgettable touchdown like that on Labor Day, and he's done it again. Argos lead. 13-yard run in the final minute last week won it. Another 13-yard run as the first major score of this game for Kerry Joseph.
But does he get away with one here? Does that ball come out on the hit? It looked like he may have lost the handle before the ball crossed the goal line. Now the convert has already been kicked, so there can be no challenge.
And the kickoff goes out. And Saskatchewan will take over at the 45. Third touchdown of the year for Joseph, his 40th career major score.
Sean Lucas is the linebacker that's going to hit him. And that ball looks like it's out right there and has not crossed the plane. It crossed the plane on its own in the air.
Legal kickoff out of bounds. Toronto number 13.
So Kerry Joseph may have got away with
first
one.
Down.
I'm not sure who recovered it at the end of that, but
Joseph did end up with a football, but should it have been spotted at the 1?
And did the officials blow the whistle as soon as they thought that he crossed the plane? Again, not challengeable any longer because the convert was already kicked.
So you saw Darian Durant take off the pads. His day apparently is done, and Stephen Giles is the quarterback. After the penalty, they start at the 45. Best starting position, and Giles can run, and does, across midfield. Stephen Giles will step out at the Argo 43. "22-yard run for Giles."
He gets a nice block from a newcomer receiver out there, Carl Berman, who's going to come all the way across the field from this side all the way over. As Stephen Giles gets outside, watch how number 81 is going to come up and set up a block. He gets outside here, and there he is, number 81. Watch how he steps in. Now, he's going to be pretty courageous to take on Adrian Mays there. Get Giles outside.
Stephen Giles came on in relief of Marcus Crandall in BC, only lasted a quarter. Wes Keats the ball carrier. Michael O'Shea with the tackle at the 35. 7 more for Wes Keats.
Perfect time to go back to Wes Keats. Matt Dunnigan talked about it during the break, that this is the key. He had 3 touches in the first quarter, and he has been very consistent, and so is Ken Miller in calling his number, although sometimes it might be just coincidental depending on the game situation. But you want to see about 5 to 8 carries per quarter from a guy with that kind of ability.
We were remarking to Ken Miller on how consistent he has been in using Wes Keats, and kind of acted like that might be just a good accident. Here's Keats taking the handoff. Again, O'Shea was there to meet him. Adriano Belli and Jonathan Brown over the top. But Wes Keats moves the chains. He had his best game last week, 107 yards against the Alouettes.
You know, it's I found it refreshing. Ken Miller was talking to us about that he was as honest as he was. You know, sometimes it's not quite as complicated as everyone seems to try and make it. We said it's almost amazing, like 19 carries, 25 carries, 19 carries, 26 carries. And we said, you must be precise. He goes, not really. It just sort of happened that way.
It's marching now. Both teams have looked better after the break. Giles looking up top for Andy Fantus. Touchdown! Stephen Giles to Fantus, 30 yards, and a Saskatchewan major.
A lot of times defensive backs, when they see the rollout from the quarterback going one direction, won't believe that it will come back the other. Stephen Giles rolls out to his right, puts the brakes on, and then throws it back across the grain all the way to the left side of the formation, and Kenny Wheaton is in a chase position. DBs will peek in the backfield. If they see quarterback roll one way, they think, nah, he's not coming back this way.
Luka Kanji adds the extra point. Both offenses more crisp, precise since the break under much better conditions. And less than 6 minutes into the second quarter, both teams have hit the end zone. You know, Glenn, there was a quote that you wonder if it wasn't just lip service earlier when Ken Miller said, quarterbacking is a collective area of strength, which is a nice way of not giving anybody preferential treatment. But Marcus Crandall, Darian Durant, who has been brilliant through the last 2 games, and now Stephen Giles looking sharp. in a number 3 role, maybe it is a collective area of Saskatchewan strength.
They're certainly working together, and they've won 4 straight games using all 3 of them. Ken Miller likes to have his starter, but this is a real good throw from Stephen Giles to step up. He knows he's going to take a hit when he steps up in the pocket like that, and he drops it up over the shoulder of Kenny Wheaton. You know, it was Giles in game 2 that was number 2 coming out of camp. When Crandall got hurt, as you mentioned earlier, Chris, Giles got a chance to play. Didn't look good. He looked like he wasn't comfortable in the pocket, and you know that now he gets his second chance to maybe move up that depth chart one more time.
The highlight of his game against the BC Lions was his only touchdown pass of the year, and that was to Andy Van Toos, and those two have connected again. I know Matt Dunnigan talked about Giles in the BC game maybe being enamored with how strong his throwing arm was. He was throwing a lot of deep passes in that game, a little bit of touch on that 30-yarder.
Oh, perfect touch. In fact, that was great touch. Ricky Ray style of deep ball touch, and especially throwing against the grain like that, Chris. If you roll one way and then step up and have to throw it against your body the opposite direction, accuracy is usually what suffers most, but he dropped that right into the hands of Andy Van Toos. Nice throw from Stephen Giles.
So all we needed was a little storm to shake things up here. Welcome to the Weather Network's coverage of the CFL.
Adjustments made during the break on offense, clearly.
Jamie Bourne to kick it off. Dorsey and Bruce are deep. That one drives Dominic Dorsey back to his goal line. Shakes off the first. And then brought down at the 20-yard line. Well, tune in Monday as TSN begins its coverage of Rogers Cup Women's Tennis live from Montreal. Coverage with Brian Williams begins at 1 o'clock Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. It's available on TSN HD. Ray Morrison just telling us that Darian Durant has headed to the locker room. Neil Hughes caused the fumble, but the Argos got it back, and they start from their 20. And now Kerry Joseph gets the Henry Burroughs treatment in Regina. Little pitch to the right side. Here's a former Rough Rider, Jamal Robertson, and he doesn't get back to the line of scrimmage. And he really has had trouble getting loose. After an impressive opening game against Winnipeg, Robertson has been unable to put a dent in any defense since.
No, he hasn't. That's a little running play, but on the back side of that play, I want to show you this because we'll watch for it as this game goes on. This is Arlan Bruce all by himself on the short side of the field. Now, that's a running play, so he's just trying to get an angle to block there. But they may go back to that matchup. That's one of the adjustments the Argos appear to have made.
Loss of 1, 2nd and 11. Joseph in the pocket, finds Arlan Bruce across the middle. Cutting back, he might lose the first down. He's dropped at the 30 and does get the first down, but not by a whole lot.
There is that formation. Bruce again, this time in the short side in a one-on-one. They put all 4 receivers to the field, leave 1 running back in the backfield. That's Jamal Robertson. And then they work the backside matchup. And there's the open Arlan Bruce over the middle.
More catches, 4 than all of last week in the opening 22 minutes of this game. 4 for 53 for number 5. And now the handoff to Robertson, and again, not much there. Deke Bake with the tackle out of Texas Tech, playing in his first game. Fresh legs as he replaces John Chick in the lineup.
Kerry Joseph has to keep doing this, though. Even though Jamal Robertson hasn't seen a lot of success, he has to keep pounding it in there, and in order to keep the defensive line for the Saskatchewan Roughriders honest.
Just surprised now. He's had 12 carries for 19 yards since looking so impressive in the opener against Winnipeg. 2nd and 8, Joseph. That wasn't open, but this is, and Arlan Bruce has a catch and a first down up at the 50. Sean Lucas, the Sam linebacker, makes the tackle.
Have you ever seen anything defensively like the Saskatchewan Roughriders did there? Look at this. They got 1, 2 stacked in there, and then 1, 2, 3 linebackers right in behind. No defensive ends per se in a different formation for Richie Hall's defense. Kerry Joseph knew he had a little more time because it was clogged up in there and waited for Bruce to open up.
I know a couple defensive coordinators called Richie after the first time they saw that. What are you doing? A two-man front. Now play action fake to Robertson on a roll. They swing it out. And here's Jeff Johnson. Omar Morgan forces him out.
Richie Hall, is there a better defensive coordinator, a more consistent defensive coordinator? You know, you look at this defense that he's running, not a lot of stars. I mean, Eddie Davis, you'd say, is a star, but beyond that, it's just a collective effort. 8th year for Richie Hall as the coordinator. Played 9 years as a halfback in the Canadian Football League. One of the best defensive coordinators the game has right now.
His defense ranked top 2 in 11 of 25 categories. Fumble on that snap. And Joseph has to roll out, try to get outside, and he'll throw it away. 2nd and 3. Sean Lucas turned up the heat after there was a problem with the exchange at center.
And this Saskatchewan defense, it's so much more impressive when, you know, they win the Grey Cup last year, and the star of the game is a guy by the name of James Johnson, who no one knew about. Look at how they've ranked first place in points against, total yards against first place, 2nd place in rush, and then they're now making the big plays too with the picks.
Vanderchat. Berman from his 5. And again, Saskatchewan starting deep in their own zone, a 58-yard punt by Vanderchat. Closed captioning of the CFL on TSN is brought to you by Sport Check. When you're in the zone, time almost stands still. Getting into the zone begins with Sport Check. Sport Check, the power of sport. Roughriders won the toss prior to the game, deferred because of that wind that they thought would be at their back in the 2nd and 4th quarters. Well, the wind no longer a factor here after the storm blew through. They start at their 11. West Cate's time.
Yeah, interesting decision, but Chris, based on what we just saw for that first quarter and how quickly it changed.
Wait 10 minutes?
Yeah, wait 10 minutes. By the 4th quarter, that win may be a factor again. But more importantly is how big a guy like Cates is now. West Cates down in this end of the field. As important as he is anytime, to have a good running game in your own end and try not to turn the ball over down there is that much more important.
6 for Cates, 2nd and 4. Argos stack the box, a pitch to the left side, and West Cates is going to give them a fresh set of downs. Leader in yards from scrimmage on the season. West Cates with a big first down.
Cates is just going to go wide here and then be patient, wait for a hole to open up. They use the bunch formation, so that means receivers are also helping out with some blocking. Saw Darius Bowman there with one, and Corey Grant also.
So there is up to date the stats. Cates within 9 of Jesse Lumsden and the CFL rushing lead. First down, Dominguez comes inside, brought down at the 32. Talked to Ken Miller about Matt Dominguez, who came in with just 7 catches, and he said he's expecting him in the next week or 2 to break out. Really didn't have much of a training camp coming back off ACL surgery last year, but he said now he's gone through what would be his training camp, and he's ready to become a dominant receiver in the league again.
When you don't get training camp, you have to get that game speed back, and that takes a few reps, a few snaps, and sometimes a couple of games.
Of course, he had the simultaneous catch touchdown against Montreal last week. 2nd down, and that time Dominguez is knocked down. There'll be a penalty, and Willie Middlebrooks doesn't like the call. The corner in coverage. You know, against Dominguez.
I watched it, Chris, the whole way. It was a one-on-one matchup, and Willie Middlebrooks got up into a press position on Matt Dominguez right here, and he gets his hands outside and around him. I think Dominguez was going to fall down on his own. The contact was minimal. But
Pass interference. Toronto number 23. First down.
most of the times, unless you're R.J. Franklin running a corner on Corey Banks, if you make contact and the receiver goes down, it will be either illegal contact if the ball is not in the air or pass interference if it is.
Chuck Climby's just called it. He said definitely a flag. So it is a first down, 3.5 minutes remaining, first half. First down at the Roughrider 45. Keeps the lone set back. Quick hitter, and it's picked off. Kenny Wheaton with the interception. And he's out at the 35-yard line. Second interception of the season for the All-Canadian Kenny Wheaton.
This is where 3 down linemen and the 4 linebackers pays off for the Argonauts, because looks like Stephen Giles may have locked in a little bit on this. He gets his eyes right to the intended target early, and that allowed Wheaton to keep going wide. If Giles looks the opposite direction until he's going to throw, he may freeze Wheaton. He's allowed to slide over there and get underneath that, tip it up in the air to himself.
Argos had 25 interceptions last year. That's only the 5th this season. They had 3 in week 1, just the 2nd since. A big one for Wheaton and the Argos gives Kerry Joseph a first down at the Saskatchewan 36. And off Dorsey, straight ahead. And Dominic Dorsey with a good run to the 27-yard line before he's tossed down. And the 3-minute warning given to the benches at Mosaic. Wendy's Kick for a Million is back. Your chance to be one of 2 kickers from Western Canada and 2 kickers from Eastern Canada who will go head-to-head to qualify for the live halftime show. Check out those prizes and go to tsn.ca/Wendy's. Plus watch the CFL on TSN for keywords to get bonus entries. 2nd and 1 after the 9-yard run by Dorsey, and they throw on 2nd and 1 and convert to Arlen Bruce. And they're getting back down into that area where Kerry Joseph has been so dangerous with his legs in recent games.
Yeah, you talked about it, how he won Labor Day a year ago with that same play. Here it was, Labor Day against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. The game on the line, and he sneaks through the middle again. Finds the end zone, very similar to what you saw earlier tonight. And what he likes to do down here, one thing that Saskatchewan could do to stop it is spy.
That was from the 13. There's a pump, the second pump, now into the end zone and wide open. Arlen Bruce, touchdown. Number 5 is definitely back in the Argo offense, and Kerry Joseph enjoying his return to Mosaic Stadium.
His ability to extend the play really puts the defensive secondary in a bind, and James Patrick, who's playing back there for Saskatchewan, gets caught up just watching the action. You're going to see him to the left of your screen come in there. Here's Joseph. Watch, he extends the play now. Extends the play by using his legs, gets outside, and number 14 just is watching Joseph and lets Arlen Bruce get in behind him.
Extra point provided by Vanderjagt. The Argos with a pair of majors in the second quarter. One on the legs of Kerry Joseph, the other connecting with Arlen Bruce.
The bind for defensive backs in that case with Joseph is, do you come up and help tackle him, especially considering that he has scored already on a quarterback draw? And there's Bruce right there. He's just going to work in behind. And watch how he notices that James Patrick has gone too shallow. He's watching the quarterback and does not get into his deep third, number 14. You always know who got beat is the guy who's running hard to get back there to where he was supposed to be.
So Joseph, who was sluggish out of the gate, has heated up. And how about Arlen Bruce's first half? 7 for 98 and a touchdown. His third major of the season. Last year when he came to Mosaic Stadium, all he did was catch 10 for 171 and a touchdown. So he likes the environs.
Uncharacteristic mental mistake from the Saskatchewan defense too. This is a well-coached team that doesn't get beat by mental mistakes very often.
Carl Berman from his 18. And Berman up across the 30. 2 minutes, 6 seconds left, and wired for tonight's game is Wes Cates.
Here we go!
Get a little a feel for the contact down there.
You heard all those grunt. That's when we talk about painkillers. That's why you need a few.
Join us late. Stephen Giles is the quarterback in relief of an injured Darian Durant. Giles on the run, and he's got Corey Grant, the Stony Creek product, with a catch. And a late flag up at the 52-yard line. And a little dust up around the line of scrimmage, too. So there's a couple of flags to sort out, I believe, as things heat up in the trenches.
Giles goes to the outside to Corey Grant because he was rolling out that way on the full run. Well, he had Darius Bowman wide open in behind everybody. It's been a difficult throw to make, though, as he was rolling out that way.
Stephen Giles, the former Eskimo, played 3 games with Edmonton in 2006. And we are awaiting the penalty or penalties that Ken Lazarick is trying to sort out, with plenty of debate down there from Gene Makowski and Michael O'Shea.
A little bit of experience between those two.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness, number 78, Toronto, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Adriano Belli in the middle of it. So that's 15 beyond the point of the catch by Corey Grant. Not the first time the Kissing Bandit's been in the middle of things.
No, and it won't be the last. He likes to mix it up in there.
So the ball marked all the way down to the 42-yard line. 34 yards in total, the catch and the penalty. The Saskatchewan first down. A handoff to Cates. Piled up after 4 as we join Ray Morrison with a Darian Durant update.
Yeah, Eric Tillman just came by and said that Darian Durant was on his way to hospital to get some x-rays of that rib injury. He did come out at the half, did take some painkillers, thought he was going to be able to have some sort of impact here in this second quarter, unable to. So they're going to have some further examination of Darian Durant's injury here as time goes on.
So Darian Durant taking the helmet from Adrian Mays in the first quarter, was 3 for 5, 28 yards, knocked out of the game. It's Stephen Giles now. Marcus Crandall is available, but they would prefer not to test that hamstring. Giles throwing that one away. That one almost reached the stands.
Matt Dominguez just broke off his route. You know, when you think about that now with Darian Durant gone to the hospital, he's out. You mentioned Marcus Crandall. He's available because he's got his gear on, but he's not 100%, and they'd rather him not go in the game. And I'm wondering if Ken Miller now just tells Stephen Giles, you know, we want you in the pocket. Part of his game, Giles, is to run as well, like Durant, like Kerry Joseph. Move to the outside. We've seen him run a little bit since he started playing in this game. But do you try and restrict him a little bit? Because if you lose him now, you've got a 75% Marcus Crandall going in.
Luka Kanji's been perfect this year, his longest from 47. They're going to mark this one at the 46. And they have James Johnson in motion as if he was onside, but Kanji puts it right through and makes it an 8-point game. So it's 18-10 for the Argonauts. A minute 26 to go, and then we'll head back to the panel. Double dipping today. As they put in a little time after the opening quarter, but we'll get the full first half analysis from Chris Schultz, Jock Climbing, Matt Dunnigan, and Dave Randorf.
Yeah, and they did mention too during that break that you know, we're thinking about Jason Tucker, that serious injury in Hamilton, and a lot of guys have been hurt. Darian Durant's on his way to the hospital. I'm sure he'll be okay. But we also echo that thought that, you know, everyone at TSN thinking about the guys that go down. It's part of the game. We all understand that, but especially in the case of Tucker when it's neck, and he's been such a great player. We wish him a speedy recovery, but there's been Fred Perry, there's been Baron Simpson, there's been DJ Flick here in Saskatchewan. John Chick as well.
4 to 6 weeks.
That's right. So, and we're still seeing great football. Boy, have we ever seen great football. That's just a testament to the depth that these teams have.
7 of the last 11 games have been decided by less than a touchdown. 3 of the last 4 were final minute decisions. And it looks like we're in for that type of game again today. Slow start, things will heat it up. And again, Dominic Dorsey. Second in all-purpose yards, brings it out. And boy, that's been a good cover team all season long. And Stu Ford, the local product, downfield first to upend Dorsey.
You can have a nice long career if you're a guy like Stu Ford. Neil Hughes is another one that comes to mind. Guys that come up through the local program that have a chance to fill in one of those last or, you know, the bottom part of that roster. But it doesn't matter where you are on the roster as long as you're on it. And Ford's made a couple of plays like that. We've seen Neil Hughes make his living doing that. It's as important as anyone on the field.
Fans trying to disrupt Kerry Joseph's offense with some noise. Time to set up and throw a completion to Andre Talbot. Again, Talbot did not play last week, a groin injury, and he didn't get the green light until a couple of hours before game time.
Yeah, and he wanted to make sure, though, but when you got a guy like Tyler Scott, who has a big game, newcomer, it kind of speeds up recovery occasionally.
Yeah. First, the second down and short, looking one way and then the opposite side. And there's Andre again with a first down catch. Argo's in the hurry up with 67 seconds on the clock.
Kerry Joseph was looking right to the outside to Arlen Bruce, but covering on the play was James Johnson. And he knows what his former teammate did in the Grey Cup. He thought otherwise and said, I'm going the opposite way.
Yeah, he saw him pick off 3. Didn't want to give him the opportunity there. First down and time again. And now he's going to scramble and has to pull it down, and he'll be brought down. There's Kitwana Jones with a tackle. Pick up a 3-4 for Kerry Joseph.
Kitwana Jones gets more playing time with the injury to John Chick, and he gets that playing time up on the defensive line. He's normally a linebacker and a special teams guy. One thing you could do if you're Toronto, you can attack him. He's not big at defensive end, but he is quick.
Kerry Joseph's run 6 times for 30 yards. 2nd and 6. Again, good protection, the long out, and Tyler Scott upended, cut down, and he couldn't hold on. James Johnson, the guy you were talking about, not giving him the cushion that Scott got last week.
No, he was there quite a bit quicker. Scott was able last week in his 5 catches in the big drive to catch it and turn upfield. This time, James Johnson, who knows how Kerry Joseph likes to deliver that wide side play, was there in a hurry and cuts his legs out.
Well, they said Scott didn't drop anything in camp and showed his sure hands last week. But a little pressure from Johnson separated the football there. Vanderjagt, good boot. Carl Berman, 14. Looking for a seam. And he's brought down at the 24. 10-yard return. Aaron Wagner, first man down, the Lethbridge product with the cover team tackle. So there are the numbers for Stephen Giles, including a 30-yard touchdown to Andy Fantuz.
Now, if Stephen Giles wants to have that success that Darian Durant had when he came in that game against BC, and then that earned him the start 2 games in a row. You know what Durant did? He went to Wes Cates. He used Wes Cates in a lot of different ways. He never forced the ball. He never tried to push it too far down the field. He was patient with the offense. Stephen Giles could learn from that.
Less than a half minute to go. Let's see what they do. Wes Cates is the man. And he pushes the pile for 4 to 5 yards. But they're not going to make any mistakes in the late stages of this. I wondered with the timeout whether we might see 1 or 2 shots downfield.
Well, you still, if you're Saskatchewan, well, they're going to start the clock. They'll use it all the way up. Should be able to end this first half. Stephen Giles will wait till that gets right down. You only get 20 seconds.
2nd and 5. Cates has his number called again. And he'll be short of the first down with 1 second on the clock. So the Roughriders likely just to take the knee and Head to the locker room.
Yeah, you'd want to do that if you're Saskatchewan. Toronto, they call a timeout.
Don't think it matters, since they'll only take a second to burn off anyway.
No, but they don't want, Saskatchewan doesn't want, you're right, to put the punt team out there and have Rich Stubler and Toronto try and go after a block or anything. That they'll just get out in this end of the field. They'll just get out at halftime, down by 8.
And so the first half, an extended version, is finally in the books. And Kerry Joseph's return to Mosaic has been a good one so far.
Live at the half is brought to you by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people.
Well, after that 43-minute delay caused by hail and lightning, we got a little life into this game, as the boys mentioned in the booth. 24 points scored in that second quarter, and Stephen Giles and the Riders find themselves down by 18-10. Yes, Stephen Giles. Again, Darian Durant taken to the local hospital to check out those ribs after taking that hard hit in the first quarter. Schulte, Kerry Joseph has done what he did last week. He passed for a touchdown and rushed for one because, there was not enough discipline at the line?
Two things, Dave. To be a good defensive lineman, you have to be ultimately aggressive, but you also have to have some discipline. You watch this play, you're going to see the nose tackle right over the center, Scott Schultz, right here. Now watch as he moves inside, and the other defender does not get around that stunt, which means he is absent where he is supposed to be. Kerry recognizes that absence, that moment of lack of discipline, big issue right for that touchdown. That's why Kerry Joseph ends up scoring. Initially, it was all taken care of. The lack of discipline had an issue.
And we've been talking about the fact that Kerry needs to run. Right, we talked about the pregame, we talked about it during the break, and he did. But here's something I've noticed about Kerry Joseph throughout his entire career, since he played for the Renegades, and that is he needs to run and get into a football game before he can start throwing the ball properly, and tonight was no exception. Kerry has a tendency to aim the football instead of just letting it rip when he first gets into a game, until he gets into the game. And then once he's into it, he can now just be an athlete. It just comes naturally. And now Kerry is in that groove, and we saw him now in the pocket being able to step up and throw. We saw him being able to roll out and hit Bruce. And hitting Bruce, actually, and that connection is the connection I've been waiting for. I've been waiting to see these two guys establish a rapport. I haven't seen much of it this year. This will pay huge dividends for Toronto if these two can get on the same page. Yeah,
during the weather delay, we talked about Kerry Joseph being a little emotional at the beginning of the ballgame. It looks like he settled down completely there. And Schultz, he audibleized on that touchdown run.
Why would he audibleize when there's a nose tackle right there? We don't know which way the nose tackle is going to go.
He saw man coverage and the blocking.
Yeah, but you didn't know that the nose tackle would be absent.
That's the offensive line. Guard and left guard.
Nobody knew the nose tackle was going to be absent on the play. So he saw it and took the reaction from it.
It was a great audible is what I'm saying, right? He recognized the defense and he got what he wanted. On the other side of the football, I look at what the Saskatchewan offense is trying to do, and they're simply trying to run West Cates. They only had 3 touches in the first quarter. Second quarter, much better protection out of this kid. He can simply put you in second and short situations, which you want when you have young quarterbacks. And here, this is a 2nd and 3. That's easy pickup for the Saskatchewan offensive line. And West Cates simply is going to take some pressure off of Stephen Giles, who's playing exceptionally well in place of Darian Durant. And guys, Dave, you said it. If Saskatchewan comes back and wins this football game, with their third quarterback,
there's going to be some investigation.
There's some investigation going on. That's right.
What have you noticed about Stephen Giles? Glenn said he's got to use Cates, which he will, but what have you noticed about him?
Much more relaxed, Dave. Much more relaxed. It looks like he's playing within himself right now.
All right. Well, right now he's down by 8. It is the Argos and the Roughriders. The Riders trying to move to 5-0, but they got some work to do on the CFL on TSN. Welcome back. Here are your halftime numbers brought to you by Tim Hortons Always Fresh.
Hey, Dave, Stephen Giles will be the key to the second half for Saskatchewan. That 94 yards in passing he will have to build on, but 95 yards right there in terms of the running game, that is Stephen's best friend right now.
West Cates, and West Cates. Rich Stubler's team has the lead, and Rich Stubler spoke with our Ray Morrison.
An interesting first half with the delay, but describe Kerry Joseph's play for me.
doing what he did last week, taking charge, calling good plays, performing like he needs to perform.
What about your team in the second half? You're in Riderville. The crowd's going to be loud. They get another break here to regroup. Defense might be crucial now.
You know, all three phases of our game are crucial, you know, and it is Riderville, but I'll tell you what, our fans in Toronto last week were louder than these people here.
Okay, good. Thanks, Coach.
Okay.
Not impressed with the atmosphere there in Riderville. Sticking up for Toronto, Rich Stubler and Ken Miller, a couple of rookie head coaches. Guys have been long-time coordinators in the league. Brian Mutrick is here with a little Sports Center update. Tell us what else is going on in the world of sports there, Brian.
Well, rain a factor in Regina. Rain certainly a factor during the Canadian Open, but one great story shining through. His name is Ches Reavie. This guy's actually sponsored by the Arizona Diamondbacks. They call him the little unit, but he was big in stature on the golf course. He's cracked the top 20 just once this year. How about a victory? His first PGA Tour victory. Mike Weir, by the way, tied for 5th at 12 under. Rogers Cup, Rafael Nadal facing Nicholas Kiefer in the final. Wasn't even close. Nadal winning 6-3, 6-2, his 5th straight tournament victory. Doubles final, Canada's Daniel Nestor grabbing his first title in Toronto in 8 years when he and partner Nenad Zimovic beat the top-seeded duo of Bob and Mike Bryan in 3 sets. And, of course, all those highlights coming up on SportsCenter following the football game. Myself and Holly Horton standing by. Also have your Jays highlights, and that's coming your way on SportsCenter. Dave and the panel's back after this.
TSN is the exclusive broadcaster of the CFL and proud home of the 2008 Grey Cup game. 2 quarters and a 40-minute weather delay in the books. 18-10 Toronto. Let's join Ray Morrison with Saskatchewan coach Ken Miller.
Well, assess Stephen Giles coming in under these circumstances for me.
Well, Stephen has made some big plays with his feet. Unfortunately, he threw that one interception, and then we let him score. You know, so when we have a sudden change offensively or defensively, we have to play well in those situations.
What about grabbing momentum early in the third quarter? How key is that going to be with these fans? Because if they pull too far ahead, it could be a challenge.
Well, we want to play with great emotion and great effort all the time, and so I'm hopeful that we'll be able to establish some momentum right here, right now.
Thanks, Coach.
The unbeaten record is on the line, 4-0. They've won 12 of their last 13, and the only team to beat the Saskatchewan Roughriders since last September is the team that's leading them by 8 headed to the third quarter of the Toronto Argonauts.
That's a tight game. It'll go down to the wire here, but yeah, that 4-0 hasn't happened since Ron Lancaster was the quarterback here in Saskatchewan and George Reed the tailback. 1970.
Second half underway. Carl Berman underway over the 35 and then drilled by Willie Pyle there. And Stephen Giles set to lead the Roughriders offense out. Let's compare the quarterback numbers.
I agree with Jock at halftime. He talked about how Kerry Joseph at 146, a lot of those numbers coming in the second quarter. Once he starts to run, he gets in that groove. He becomes an athlete. I agree with all of that, and he's doing that now. Stephen Giles has to just manage the game. Darian Durant came in against the BC Lions, managed the game, and ended up winning it.
Giles got in a couple of games last year, late in the season. His game today, starting at the 35, a play-action fake, and look to the far side for Corey Grant in his second catch. Pickup of close to 7.
And we'll see what the Toronto Argonauts choose to do now since they've had halftime to realize that they're going against a young Stephen Giles. Will they go with that 40 front, or will Kavis Reed go back to playing more 3-down linemen with active linebackers and try and confuse the Saskatchewan Roughriders? There's your breakdown from the first half. 34, 13 times. The 43, 15 times with the 4-down linemen. So that was pretty much balanced.
Second and 4. And Giles throws that away. Matt Dominguez was well covered by Willie Millabrooks.
You know, and you saw the balance in there with 13 times on the 34 defense. 8 of those 13 were in second down. That's more of a passing down, obviously. And in the 43, it's even more. You can see 13 of those 15 in the 43 were on first down, and that's a running down. So that's how Toronto started the game and played the first half. I wouldn't be surprised to see more 30 in the second half.
Well, it is a team that was almost exclusively over the last few years a 3-4 defense. But we have seen changes, and the Argos trying to snap a string of 3 consecutive games where they have surrendered over 30 points in each game. Orem to kick. Dorsey bobbling it, drops it. Roughriders get a big break early in this third quarter. They've got the football. The former Saskatchewan Roughrider dropped it, and James Patrick comes up with it.
Well, he comes up with it. Patrick gets the fumble because as Dorsey's looking to try and corral this football, I believe it was Yannick Carter who comes up, and he's going to hit him. Number 49 in the middle of your screen. He's the first guy down to cover, and he makes the tackle on Dorsey so Dorsey can't fall on the football. He's kind of bouncing around, bouncing. Watch this. Bang, he gets hit there. Down he goes, and that allows Patrick to pick it up.
Carter erasing Dorsey. The second-year player out of Pickering. Caused the turnover. Let's see if Giles can cash. Rolling. And a stretch catch by Carl Berman. And a first down. Argos scored 7 off the Kenny Wheaton interception in the first half, and now Giles trying to answer.
Well, they were going to have Carl Berman come in and do some returns. They've been hit the injury bug in the receiving core, and Tad Cornegay was a scratch in this game, and he was a returner, but that's a pretty nice catch. The rookie out of Indiana State.
Taking a spot that might have been used by Weston Dressler, who lit it up against Hamilton out with a hamstring, and they say Berman has Dressler-like speed. First and 10. Wes Cates. Hole. Power. And finally Jonathan Brown, and the rest of the Argos bring him down. That's why Wes Cates is now one of the most revered running backs in the CFL.
Well, it's the size and strength, but out of all the running backs, all the great ones in the CFL this year, the Joe Smiths, the Charles Roberts, even though he's struggling, and a lot of the good running backs that the CFL has seen over the years, is there any been a running back with more balance, better balance than Wes Cates? He just has tremendous balance on his feet. It takes 2 or 3 hits to get him down. You never really see him falling forward or just getting basically tripped up. He always has got that great balance, and he now has the lead in the CFL.
11 carries, 70 yards in the CFL rushing lead. And on top of that, does he have a first down?
This drive starts out with a great special teams play, Chris. You mentioned earlier that the special teams have been a real highlight through the 4-win streak for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
An area that not many of us outside the coaching staff talk about, but Alex Smith talks about it and is one of the best in the business as the special teams coach.
And in the CFL, the special teams are 1/3 of the game. It's not like the National Football League where it's offense and defense that dominate. It's a full third.
So second and less than 1, almost an extra down inside the 5. Giles pushing ahead. That should be enough to make it first and goal from inside the 3.
Ken Miller said to Ray Morrison at halftime, he said, you know, when we turn the ball over, we need our defense to respond with the sudden change, to be able to come up and hold the offense to a field goal. That's what the Argos are facing, and Ken Miller's group has taken that turnover and put it right down on the doorstep in a hurry.
Interesting, on first and goal from the 2, he brings back out both power backs, Hughes and Sarka, at least fullbacks, and it's a 5-receiver set. And he is stopped.
Michael Fletcher.
Yes. He might be having his best game of the year.
Yeah, he is, and he is coming from that outside, so it looks to me like Michael Fletcher's speed is back. He's over here to the left of your screen just behind Jonathan Brown, and he will knife across underneath and make the first initial contact there on Wes Cates.
So second and goal from the 1. Zarka checks back in. Hughes is in 2. He lines up at a tight end spot. And the second man through. Cates again scores easily. Off the edge, Neil Hughes provides a block. Touchdown, Saskatchewan.
A little veteran savvy from Wes Cates to not just slam himself into the back of his offensive line on that kind of formation. He knows that the defense has to commit, that they will get low and just drive forward. He took a big step when he got the ball, then paused and broke to the outside. Watch his big step there, a little hesitation. He knows everyone else is committed, and away he goes. And Gene Mikowski had taken Adrian Mays about 5 yards back into the end zone.
So both teams have touchdowns off turnovers. Saskatchewan's coming off that fumble by Dominique Dorsey. Gainer the Gopher has a touchdown to celebrate here at Mosaic. The CFL on TSN brought to you in part by Nissan's Make the Call. Play on cfl.nissan.ca for your chance to win a trip to the Grey Cup game.
Nice shot across the prairies there to the city of Regina. Around in these parts, that shot was taken from Calgary, I think. Not much blocking.
Wes Gates with the touchdown, his 6th of the year on the ground, his 7th overall. He's on a record pace in that department.
Boy, did he get a nice block from the veteran Gene Mikowski, the offensive lineman who still has tremendous mobility. Wes Cates had just waited for that to set up nicely and bounced it to the outside.
Each team's committed a turnover. Each team has answered the turnover with a touchdown. Dorsey has trouble with the sun, and fortunately for the Argos, that goes out. And I know some coaches are a little concerned about this rule. They'd like to see it changed, that if the ball bounces like that in play, it shouldn't be a penalty, because now instead of taking it inside the 10, the Argos will start at their 45.
Let's go back to that touchdown. I want to show you big Gene Mikowski, who's right there in the middle of your screen. Watch how he pulls out here and fills the hole.
Toronto's like to take the ball at the 45-yard line.
That's tremendous mobility for Mikowski in his 14th year, and he puts his shoulder pads on Adrian Mays and drives him back 6-7 yards into the end zone. Moved from tackle to guard this year. He's played all over the place. It's a backup center as well. Still can move.
Gary Joseph back to work. And that pass batted down. We saw this a number of times last week, and for the first time today, a Joseph pass knocked down.
Wes Cates has scored in every single game, and look at how he tries to fool the defense by looking both ways. He does not want to give away the side that he wants to run to, so he'll look left, he'll look right, he'll look left, and the defense, if they're trying to get a pre-snap read, they can't. Not sure which direction he will go until he gets the ball.
The knockdown from Jimmy Verdon, and Ken Miller was hoping he'd get a ball up there today. Pressure, but he gets outside, and Joseph throws downfield, and that one almost intercepted. Is it intercepted? No, they're ruling incomplete. Although James Patrick tried to sell the officials. But Gary Joseph under pressure from Tristan Clovis. Let's head down to the sidelines and get an update from Ray Morrison.
Just about a big play from James Patrick. He's in for James Johnson. James Johnson isn't sure when he took the hit that we're talking about, but he's suffering from some migraine headaches, so that's why he's not in. On offense, Darian Durant back. He just told me that from the hospital, he has 3 fractured ribs.
So that's distressing news for the Roughriders. Berman flags that down inside his 10. Sidesteps a couple of hits. Going to get outside. Berman shows some speed, and that's a good tackle by Kenny Heatley to prevent any further damage. 9-yard return. For every sack in today's game, Purolator donates the quarterback's weight in food to a local food bank. Purolator, where business is going. And a couple of sacks for the Argos in this game. Riel Johnson, Michael Fletcher.
Now they need to catch up. Saskatchewan, Toronto, they're pulling up the rear here.
Yes. It's been the cause of some concern, and hats off to the Mosaic Stadium crew at Tackle Hunger Day last week. They brought in over 37,000 pounds of food. Wes Cates, and he'll be hung on belly, and at the bottom of the pile, Michael Fletcher with another tackle.
You know, Michael Fletcher, that conversation I had with him, he talked about, you know, how he's moved around and played different positions. Adrian Mays is actually a guy who, Fletcher comes from over on the left side of your screen. He's a guy that backed up Fletcher, Mays. And Fletcher is such a team player that he let him take reps last year and early on because he's such a stud and a great defensive player, he told me.
Wade for Cates, 2nd and 7. Giles on a roll, looks downfield, and Fantuz punished by Fletcher. And it's incomplete, but Michael Fletcher made Fantuz pay anyway.
Yeah, there's Fletcher now in the pass coverage and showing his quickness, and he said, I'm getting back. I feel like I've got my feet under me again, and I'm getting to the football that half step faster over the last game and a half. And he has put together a whale of a game here already. Him and Adrian Mays now playing together because Kevin Ivan is out of the linebacking core. And Mays say he can play any position on the field.
Ivan, an MCL injury that they don't think is too serious, already jogging and could be back in another week or two.
Of course, Mays is the guy who put Darian Durant out.
Well, the Argos have enjoyed great field position in this game, and there's a ball off the side of Borum's foot. One hop, Dorsey midfield. And Dominic Dorsey swarmed at the 51 with a penalty marker down. 8:11 to go. Third quarter. CFL on TSN, brought to you in part by Nissan's Make the Call. Play on cfl.nissan.ca for your chance to win a trip to the Grey Cup game in Montreal. Well, there was a holding penalty on that punt return against Chris Hardy. So the Argos will start at their own 48, which is about where they've averaged start in this game. Big hole that time, left side. Jamal Robertson gets up to midfield. But special teams have been terrific all season long for the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Special teams are all about the 1-2 factor. How bad do you want to get down the field? How bad do you want to win that ballroom brawl going from the line of scrimmage 40 yards down to the return man? And so far this season, the Saskatchewan Roughriders have been the #1 cover team in the league. Alex Smith has got his group working together. That's the 1-2 factor.
2nd and 3, Joseph rolling, looks downfield, and there's a nice snare by Tyler Scott. And we saw his great hands last week. Well, just to finish the thought, here are the rankings. Saskatchewan allows the least number of yards per punt return in the league. And the Argos are 6th. That's 4 yards difference every punt.
And you look at 20 punts in a game, and that adds up to almost the length of the football field. So it makes a big, big difference in field position.
Tyler Scott's catch gives the Argos a first down, a pump and go, and Arlen Bruce behind coverage, and the pass astride, too heavy.
Kerry Joseph had the time. He had the time to do the pump fake so that he could get Arlen Bruce in behind the coverage. And you know what he's saying? He's saying to himself, I need to put more air under the football and allow Bruce to just go and run under it. He put it on a line and just overthrew him by about 1.5 yards. On those deep ones, when you have the guy in behind, a little more air buys you some time.
So they heard Ray Morrison's report that James Johnson's out of the game, and they go to the newcomer on the wide side corner, and nearly had a big one. 2nd and 10. And this time, Joseph dropped Kitwana Jones. You wanted more sacks? The Saskatchewan Roughriders have their 7th of the year, first of the game.
Anton McKenzie's going to line up outside of Kitwana Jones, and Kitwana Jones uses that to his advantage. There's McKenzie, there's Kitwana Jones to the right of your screen. And because there's confusion on the outside, Kitwana Jones is allowed to slip through there and get home. There's McKenzie.
10-yard loss. It takes away the field goal option, which would have been from 49. And Vanderjagt boots that into the end zone, and that will be a single point. And a 2-point Argo lead with 6:10 left, third quarter. Ray Morrison's not in this picture, but he is on the sidelines, Ray.
Yeah, you know who is in that picture, though? Who can forget, like, Walter Okie Walton and Ivan Wood and players like that from the 1934 Regina Roughriders. They were the last team in this city to go to a record of 5-0. It was actually a team that went 6-0. So, of course, Rough Rider fans had to wait 18 years for a Grey Cup. But, man, they've had to wait since 1934 for a 5-0 team, Chris.
Yeah, but then the Sarnia Imperials took care of them. There's Giles out of the backfield. Neil Hughes. And Hughes busts this one. Scampering all the way inside the 45. And Michael O'Shea had to track him down. Neil Hughes has been a big story in Regina and the entire province in recent weeks.
Lines up as a tight end on the right of your screen, just outside here. To the right of that arrow, little play action one way, and then he will just release. It's almost like a little slip screen to get him outside, and pretty good acceleration for the fullback. Started on special teams, made his way to some offensive plays, and when he gets out there, he makes something happen.
Product of Tom High School here in town, a hometown hero, 34 yards. And now Giles rolls, and he'll pull it down. And Stephen Giles close to another first down as the Rough Riders are rolling.
Well, they want to keep that streak alive. We talked about the 5-game streak. 4 games. This was what was happening in the world in 1970 when they put together 4 straight wins. The Prime Minister was Pierre Trudeau. Richard Nixon was the President of the United States. This one blew me away. The Canucks joined the National Hockey League that year, and it was the year Mike Weir was born. After Canadian Open wraps up.
1970, and now they try to go 5-0. They're down by 2, but threatening here and in field goal range already. Just outside the 30, back to Wes Cates. And he has 5 straight ahead with Adriano Belli, the nose tackle, hanging on.
Well, with all of these running quarterbacks in the league, this has really become the offensive staple for a lot of teams. This riding the running back with the ball in his stomach and then having the option to get outside. We've shown you a lot of different teams throughout the first part of this season that love to do this, and this drive is a big part of that type of offense. It'll dump pass to Hughes. They're always involving Wes Cates in some way.
Cates up to 79 yards on the ground. He's hit his average number of carries already at 15. Pressure, and they screen it back to Cates. And it's well read. Great defensive play. Snuffing Cates. Michael O'Shea in the middle of it. And O'Shea over 1,100 tackles in his distinguished Canadian Football League career.
This play was designed by Saskatchewan to take advantage of Michael Fletcher's speed in this game off the edge. Fletcher has a bunch of times come right off the edge this way, and he's been so quick that this time they're going to let him go and then screen it back behind him. See number 2 come and dive and try and knock that ball down. Now they're trying to screen and take advantage of his quickness, and they thought that there was a late hit on Cates there.
What a play by O'Shea. He took out Glenn January and Wes Cates to blow up that play.
See Fletcher come quickly off that corner.
So Luka Kanji surveying what will be a 32-yard attempt for the lead. And all he's done has been perfect so far this season. And Kanji puts another one through. And the Saskatchewan Roughriders have the lead, and we've got a little dust-up. Downfield. Well, this time we want to send out a special greeting to the 3rd Battalion, Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, Lord Strathcona's Horse, currently deployed for 6 months at Kandahar Airfield in Afghanistan. And we also want to extend our sympathies and respects to the family of Corporal James Arnold, who was killed in action 9 days ago. We salute all members of the Canadian Armed Forces.
And we talk about always how tough the football players on the field. Well, there are no tougher than the men and women in the Canadian Armed Forces. 2,500 of them that are contributing to the International Security Assistance Force and protecting our way of life. So we salute and absolutely thank you for your services. And we'd like to do that on a weekly basis to say hi to the men and women serving in the armed forces.
First lead of the game for the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Now Kerry Joseph back And he flares it out, and Johnny Morant has his first catch, and Morant up near midfield. He has 18.
I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more production out of Johnny Morant. I know he had to learn the Canadian Football League. He's got great football experience on the National Football League for years, a couple years. And I thought that this offense would try to go to him a little bit more with Bethel Johnson out of the lineup. Really leaned on guys like Tyler Scott more than him.
Just Morant's fourth catch. He had one last week, first one today. Here's a guy that's been getting a workout. Arlen Bruce, another first down catch. His biggest day of 2008.
And that one you knew was a matter of time. You know, that was, it's different situation obviously than Morant. That's a guy that you knew would be emerging sooner or later in this offense. Already has 100 tonight.
Well, even last week it was James Robinson and Tyler Scott, but once they get more attention, it finally opens up some room for the primary target, who might not be seeing constant double coverage as he did last week.
No, he's not, and that's partly due to Steve Barato's game plan, because he has isolated Arlen Bruce in one-on-one matchups a bunch tonight, especially in the second half after the break for the weather and then the halftime break. Watch Bruce go out and get a lot of one-on-one matchups on the backside. Now with James Johnson out, we'll probably see even more of that. Kerry Joseph will have to call the play to get him there, but it's the game plan that has the formation available to Joseph.
Second and less than a yard at the Roughrider 47. Free play to take a shot. Let's see. Just a plunge ahead and a first down. Well, it's been his best game of the year so far. Let's take a look at Arlen Bruce's night.
As you mentioned earlier, his best game of the year last year was against the same football team late in the season with 10 catches, 171. He's over 100 tonight. And there's been that isolation, backside one-on-ones. And one of the reasons that Arlen Bruce got the touchdown on a busted coverage, he was in behind coverage again, and Kerry Joseph a few moments ago just missed him, or those numbers would even be better.
14th time in his career he's hit 100 or more. First down, Argonauts. Play action. And dropping the ball out of the backfield, Jeff Johnson.
This time the Saskatchewan defense had the look where they had Arlen Bruce by himself in the short side of the field, but they decided to play zone against it rather than one-on-one or man coverage. So they left two players over there, a high defender in case he goes deep, and a short guy in Omar Morgan. Take care of that. Johnson just drops the ball. He's the next read if it's zone. So Richie Hall switching things up so he can avoid that matchup if possible.
Kitwana Jones, Luke Mulliner check in on 2nd and 10. Out of shotgun formation, Joseph running it downfield, and Bruce can't hang on.
Got him over there on that one-on-one. It's once again the matchup, and Richie Hall relies on Omar Morgan, who's going to give a lot of room to Arlen Bruce. There's Bruce right there. Omar Morgan back way off him, allowing him a lot of cushion. He's going to come down, break to the inside, is open. He gets a little help from Maurice Lloyd on that linebacker drop, and Kerry Joseph had to try and thread that needle, but that's a ball that Arlen Bruce normally catch.
Last time from this range, Mike Vanderjagt kicked it into the end zone. That's not the game plan, and this time he takes more off it. And that one went through Irvin's hands. That's a live football in the end zone. And who's got it? There's Stones scrubbing, and Jeff Johnson's got the ball, and it's a touchdown, Toronto. There is a penalty marker, and are the officials going to say no yards? It looked like it clipped the fingertips of Carl Berman and would make it a live ball. But wait a minute.
But wait just 1 minute, because it looked to me like Chris Hardy was too close. Already had one penalty on the teams, and there's number 8.
Yes.
No yards.
Definitely within 5.
5-yard penalty.
Definitely within 5.
Which is why Carl Berman could be so aggressive to the football. He knew he had a guy inside, and he was going to get that call. That's the second penalty for Hardy, and Rich Stubler won't like that.
Hardy, the special teams captain, just back in the lineup. Coming off injury. So Saskatchewan dodges one with 31 seconds left in the third quarter. It's just a 5-yard penalty. And Wes Cates taken down. But another good run by Cates.
If he keeps running on a cutback like that, they're going to force Toronto to go back into that 4-man front, because he cuts back right here on a dime, and look at the arrow that he has to attack the backside as all of the Argonauts defenders float past the point of attack and allow Cates a cutback lane.
Kenny Wheat in the tackle, but a 13-yard gain. Cates closing in on his second consecutive 100-yard gain. Takes another handoff, and this time Adrian Mays with a slick tackle right at the line of scrimmage. Maybe a yard for Cates on the final play of the third quarter. And it's a 1-point game. Third quarter stats are brought to you by Tim Hortons. Always fresh, always.
Saskatchewan starting to rack up the rushing yards. We've seen a lot of Wes Cates, and when you're down to what was your third-string quarterback at one point, now really the second-string quarterback tonight in Stephen Giles, you're going to see a lot of that running game.
Boy, you got to give Giles credit. As the guy said at halftime, if they can keep this unbeaten streak alive with 3 different quarterbacks, there may be an inquiry, and certainly it is a collective area of strength.
This football team is like that, though. The Saskatchewan Roughriders, the only unbeaten team heading into this week, and it's not a team with 3 or 4 big-name superstars. You don't see the G. Roy Simons, the Jason Tucker type of guys. This is a team that kind of does it as a team.
Well, and it's a team that's 4-0 without one player of the week in 4 categories, so they're 0 for 16. Even though they're 4-0. 2nd and 9 at their 30. Back to Cates, a little misdirection. Sidestep O'Shea, but he'll be stopped at the 36, short of the first down, and there's some equipment popping down there.
Saskatchewan Roughriders, when you look at what they've done at the end of last year, winning the Grey Cup Championship 3-0 through the playoff run, they ended the season 5-1. That one loss, Chris, you mentioned earlier, to the Toronto Argonauts, but 12-1 in their last 13 games. Ken Miller doesn't know what it's like to lose as a head coach.
And trying to extend it against the team he worked for 5 years, including that 2004 Grey Cup win. Good kick by Borum. Penalty marker down. Dorsey on his way. And Deanna Carter and Brandon Lynch with the tackle. Let's find out what the flag's all about here in the first minute of the fourth quarter.
It was right at the line of scrimmage, an earlier flag, either a holding by Saskatchewan or it was something that went on at the line, not down by where the returner was.
And it's a holding penalty against the Argos.
Yeah, of course, that would have been.
Holding, Toronto, number 52, 10-yard penalty, first down.
Yeah, it's the punt return team, I should say, that would normally called it the holding at the line of scrimmage, and that would be Toronto in this case.
So the Argos will start deep in their own zone.
3 penalties and 3 consecutive kicks for the Toronto Argonauts, and Rich Stuber is letting them hear it.
Yeah, you don't want to be Aaron Wacker right now.
No. Or Chris Hardy.
Well, they have averaged about the 45 start position all night, but now back at their 10 with pressure, and Joseph gets it away, and Andre Talbot can't bring it in.
You just think about those plays, though, those special teams plays, and you can understand why the head coach is so upset with his team. Takes 7 points off the board on a fumble because Chris Hardy was inside the 5-yard zone. The punt before that, Hardy had a holding penalty that took away really good field position at about midfield, and now they put their offense in a big, big hole here. It's a key plays in a football game.
Like Joseph calling another audible.
Here they come.
Stands in, throws, and is that ball caught? Bobbled, but Bruce hangs on. Close to a first down, but Well, let's see the spot. He is inside a yard away.
Well, the impressive part of this play, I felt, was how it was the blitz was picked up. Hofford picks up his guy on the outside. And that gave Kerry Joseph just enough time to get that ball out of there, and it took a couple of tries for Arlen Bruce to pull that one in, but it's close enough for a measurement. If that blitz is not picked up by Nathan Hofford, Kerry Joseph is sacked and may have to give up a safety.
Couple of inches short.
Watch the blitz coming from the bottom of your screen. It's the safety, Scott Gordon. There's the block, and it's not real pretty from Nathan Hofford. Doesn't have to be. Gave his quarterback a chance to throw it.
Third and a couple of chain links. And the decibel level going through the roof. Anything to disrupt this play. Joseph's got it. A much needed first down. We mentioned Kerry Joseph last week over 100. Hasn't been as dangerous tonight, but for the 13-yard touchdown run.
Yeah, and this drive is one that, you know, late in games is a lot of the time when he'd like to run and take off and try and, when the defense is starting to tire, take off and see if they can take advantage of that.
Rich Stubler thought that Kerry Joseph has the potential to be a 1,000-yard rusher this year. Out of a double tight end, Joseph, and it's cleared, and here's James Robinson. Quiet night, but he turns it upfield now and has a big one up to the 51-yard line. So a 30-yard pickup for James Robinson.
See the end of that play. I want to point out the end of that play because it's a crossing route which he made a living off last week. Is Robinson coming all the way across from one side of the field all the way across to the other, and Joseph has time to throw it. Here he comes. At the end of this play, he makes one move, goes back inside, and then goes down. Sometimes, you know, everyone wants to see that tough receiver take a bunch of hits. Sometimes you can go too far and you cause a fumble.
Past the 3-minute mark, fourth quarter, first down, Argos at their 50. On a roll, wide open, and he misses Tyler Scott. Skipping that at his feet.
Didn't quite get his shoulders around Kerry Joseph on that. Full roll to the left side, and as he's coming around, he really didn't get his shoulders all the way around and square. His off shoulder, his left hand shoulder, is the one that's got to point to the target, and he kind of flicks it, but he doesn't get it all the way around. Here he comes. Now he's got to tack the line of scrimmage just a little more. Matty Dunnigan will tell you, he comes towards the line and gets that shoulder point a little more. He can get a little more on that.
Second and 10. Second read is deep. Arlen Bruce. Incomplete. Lance Frazier recovered. Or check that. That's the Sam linebacker, Sean Lucas, who disrupted the play.
Yeah, he went a long way to get involved in that one. And there was no interference call because Arlen Bruce went back towards Lucas and basically initiated the contact. See how he's turning towards him, and then incidental contact on a ball that wasn't going to be caught. There's Arlen Bruce right there, and he does open up late in this route.
Vanderjagt bouncing it downfield, and this one will skip out. Another flag down, and was Vanderjagt contacted.
Well, it's going to be roughing the kicker, and Toronto's going to get this football back.
And a team that has not taken many bad penalties this year just did.
Yannick Carter got in there. I'm not sure if he's the guy who made contact.
Contact the kicker, Saskatchewan, number 35. 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's Brandon Lynch, a backup linebacker. He cut through too. I saw Yannick Carter in the backfield. He got pushed to the outside, and contact was made on Vanderjagt. First down for the Toronto Argonauts in very good field position. Leg in the air. Minimal roughing the kicker contact from Brandon Lynch.
Sold well by Mike Vanderjagt. And a first down at the Saskatchewan 49. Dorsey bursts through. Dominic Dorsey with 10 to the 40.
Maurice Lloyd just got the top of his shoelaces, or Dominic Dorsey is in the secondary. He had a nice seam and hole. Look at that desperation from Maurice Lloyd. He's being blocked, going down the middle linebacker, and just got his left hand and probably saved a touchdown.
Well, they mark it just short of the first down. Second and less than a yard for Dorsey, who had a pair of starts at tailback for the Roughriders, replacing Kenton Keith a couple of years back. And once again, Kerry Joseph plunges forward.
Another tight, close football game and good finish in the Canadian Football League. And this league is on a roll. The offensive coordinators have had to work and earn their paycheck from start to finish, because even if it's been low scoring, you need to get that offense. You have to have the last drive.
Well, this drive started deep in Toronto territory, not at the 1 like they did last week with just over a minute to go.
And it gives that Toronto defense a long rest on the sideline.
This drive started at the 10. They've now reached the Roughrider 39, first down. Joseph with time, wide open, and again that skips. That was the play last week, and Tyler Scott, intended receiver, and you think Kerry Joseph's a little banged up after that play.
Yeah, he was grabbing his hand and his right arm, and I don't know if he maybe made contact on a rider or somebody coming in. Let's take a look at Joseph. A little bit of half roll, and then he's going to turn around and pull up. It looks like he has space and time. Oh, and he does hit.
Yes,
he hit Dominic Dorsey across the helmet.
Either that or Kitwana Jones. He got somebody's helmet. That's a play that everybody was raving about last week, those 55-yard crossfield throws.
Oh, he can make it.
Second and 10. Backpedaling to set up the screen. Dorsey, 35. Dorsey bounced off the first man, but then is smothered short of the first down. Ronald Williams in on the passing situation. Made sure Dorsey didn't get to the first down stick.
But it's a good play call in this situation. You're in field goal range if you can pick up about 5 or 6. Dorsey had to get through the mix there first. And then if you get your back to maybe spring one and break a tackle, he can get that first down, but it gives Vanderjagt a real good look at about a 40-yard field goal, or just over.
This for the Argos to regain the lead from 41. And he makes no mistake. Argos back in front. Lots of time. 8:39 left. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Future Shop. Get 360 degrees of home theater expertise. Saskatchewan Roughriders trying to extend their lead in the West. The Argos vying to take over sole possession of first place in the East. This game's still in the balance. Argos with a 2-point lead. Roughriders take over 35-yard line. Stephen Giles rolls, and over the middle, Andy Fantuz, who has a touchdown catch, has a big first down up at the 50.
We haven't talked much about Andy Fantuz, who has been a favorite target the last couple of weeks. I mean, you look at the Saskatchewan Roughriders games, 2 out of the 4, he's been their leading receiver, including last week with 99 yards, and just 2 catches here tonight, but a big one there.
Argos held him to 3 catches last year, but he gets his triple XL mitts on that one and has another at midfield. Lunging to the Argo 53-yard line. Once again, Wes Cates wired for sound for us tonight.
Here we go! Yes, sir, bro.
How's he going to feel tomorrow morning?
I love hearing the contact. I love also that there's no trash talking from Wes Cates.
Second and 4, flag down, and again, They swing it out, and this is Darius Bowman with the catch.
See what this flag is, but when you hear that, that's a couple of times now we've been following Cates. Not very talkative. It's great to hear that violence, but Cates is not a guy who's going to do a lot of talking. And, you know, to be honest with you, in all my years, I don't remember saying a whole lot because I'm just so tired. And I always wonder how guys can do all that talking. Unless Cates one of those guys who doesn't. He just goes out and gets his work done.
There are a bunch that don't mind to get into a debate, though.
Oh, they love to talk.
Offside. Toronto number 7, declined.
Riel Johnson was offside. So it's a first down.
Well, one more first down away from field goal range for Saskatchewan to answer the last Vanderjagt field goal.
Stay tuned till the final minute.
Yeah.
Bunch formation to the wide side. West Cates over 100. And he's going to carry for a few more. That shows you his strength. Michael Fletcher at the bottom of the pile. So Cates has his second 100-yard game and the second 100-yard rushing game against the Argo defense.
And once again, that run, real dominant and consistent play factor in the Saskatchewan offense. Ken Miller said it may even be a little bit of an accident, but accident or not, there has been real consistency. 19 carries again for West Cates.
And he said what they might have done better in the last couple of weeks is be consistent with them for 60 minutes.
He's again.
To him again, and why not? Straight ahead on 2nd and 2 for another fresh set of downs. Ken Miller felt the first two games they may have waited too long and got him in fourth quarter. But it's been from the get-go the last couple of weeks, shy in the first quarter, but
look at that consistency. 19 in game 1, 25, 19 again. Now they got up to 25, and again, over 100 yards each one of those games. And by the way, all 4 of those games wins.
6th play of the drive. First and 10. They fake to Cates. Giles rolls. Andy Fantuz. And he's got it down at the 15. Brought down by Chuck Winters. And Fantuz is staying down.
And in a key play, Fantuz will stay down. Well, he looks a little banged up at the end of that as well.
Boy, the injuries have mounted here in Saskatchewan, and this is one that they dearly can't afford. The CFL on TSN is brought to you in part by Rona, proud sponsor of the CFL. Rona, the Canadian how-to people. Well, we have just seen one of the most costly first downs of the year. Andy Fantuz being carted off after the hit by Willie Middlebrooks. And we don't want to get into diagnosis, but
it did not look good.
It looks similar to the Fred Perry play last week.
Yeah, and similar to DJ Flick as well in BC. And we're giving you the angle that doesn't show it quite as bad, but the ankle was basically in a position it shouldn't be, and Fantuz put it back in place with his other foot.
Yeah, the foot was pointed the wrong way.
And that will be it for Fantuz tonight. That, I think we can safely say.
One of the young Canadian stars in this league, West Cates, right up the middle. And another terrific Cates run, close to another first down.
There's that balance that I talked about with West Cates as he gets contact at the line, but you never see him get hit high and go down. He's just got such balance as he hits the line of scrimmage. And the Toronto Argonauts were in that 4-man front to play against the run. So they had the guys out there they wanted to try and stop Cates, and then couldn't do it.
2nd and a yard. While the team's going to the running formula against the Argos. There's a first down. Is it a touchdown? waiting for a signal. Looked like he stretched out to break the plane.
He got initial contact before he got there, about 1.5 yards before, as a matter of fact, but he had that second effort, which he always does, and lunged forward. I'm not sure if he crossed the plane or not, but it was that close. Let's take a look again. There he is to the left of your screen. Contact made right there. And he is well out. He's 2.5. But watch, he hasn't gone down. Hasn't gone down. That ball just comes across, but did his knee touch? They're saying it did.
First and goal from the 1. Zarka and Cates in the eye. Stephen Giles pushing it ahead. No signal. As the pushing continues.
Still no signal. They're usually take about 1.5 seconds to sort out the pile to see if the ball has crossed the plane, but looks like this may be a stop. First down. Remember, even if he gets closer, it goes back to the 1.
And the fans show their displeasure. And now we're going to get the 3-minute warning. Well, the fans here thought Stephen Giles broke the plane. What do you think? Thought we might have had a challenge on the Wes Cates attempt to get to the end zone. Ken Miller has thrown a challenge flag on that sneak by Stephen Giles.
And it's going to be tough. This was ruled as a goal line stand on first down by the Argos, so they're going to have to see enough evidence to say that Stephen Giles crossed the plane. I don't know from that look you can. This one, you can see that he gets some penetration into that line. I just don't know if you can see that the ball is crossed because he gets buried in there. And then there is one other angle right here. But, you know, it's hard to get perspective and look straight. You almost have to be directly on top of it, which is impossible, obviously. So I'm not sure that there is an angle there that will be enough to overturn.
So Ken Lazarick is under the hood, but that's a tough one to see. Might have had a better look on the Wes Cates attempt. Stephen Giles was the short yardage specialist in Edmonton.
After reviewing the play, there is no substantial visual evidence to show that the ball crossed the goal line.
I don't like it here.
If nothing else, Ken Miller's challenge is enough to give the officials a little heat here.
Yeah, and get the fans into it, that's for sure. But, you know, the close to 30,000 here at Mosaic, the sellout, they don't have the replay monitors. And there wasn't enough evidence to overturn that. But it's only second down.
Time for Belly and Jonathan Brown and Aaron Wagner and the rest, Ronald Flemons, to dig in one more time against.
Now they cannot cross that stripe with their hands or their bodies, any part of their body, the Argos, or they're offside. They have to be behind that stripe.
Here we go. Second and goal from the 1. And he ran right into a wall. Touchdown. And now we might get another look.
Well, that was a quick touchdown signal, and he got hit right at the line. Let's take another look. You're going to have a good look at it here, folks, because Wes Cates is hit in midair. Loses his leverage there. Does the ball cross the plane? I don't know. Well, Michael O'Shea hit him right at the top of the pile, and that is very close.
Well, they've got to look at that upstairs, don't they? And now Ken Lazarick's delaying the convert.
Well, it's inside.
No question.
It's inside, Chris, now of 3 minutes. We just went through the 3-minute warning, so it would have to be called by the upstairs official. But that one is very close. In fact,
I'm going to review the play upstairs to see if the ball did cross the line of scrimmage or goal line.
This is the right thing to do. by the officials. That was so close that they have to go up. I mean, of the 3 down on the goal line that we've just seen, that was the closest. Maybe this angle will give you another perspective, but that side angle, I thought, showed the football in midair. You're going to have to take a real close look at it.
O'Shea slammed the door. Aaron Wagner was there. Here's another look.
Let's take a different look now. Can you see the ball? There is the ball. There is the ball right.
This is our best look. And we'll try and draw a line at the point of contact.
Watch when he goes up over the top. And I'm going to try and see how straight I can draw it, because you can see the ball
right there.
Right there. Okay, so hold on now for a second. Just hold it there, guys. There's the ball right there. Okay, now let's see if I can accurately draw that. You know what? I don't have a ruler, but let's try this. There is basically the goal line. Now, there is the ball. You tell me. And that may be, by the way, the officials aren't seeing the drawings that are going on. The officials just see the replays. But you can, unlike the last one from Stephen Giles, in all those 3 looks we had, you never saw the football. That one, you can see the football.
I think of the last 3 plays, that's the least likely to be a touchdown.
After reviewing the play, there is no substantial evidence to show that the ball didn't cross the goal line. The play stands, touchdown.
A little surprising, but that one.
But you know what? Out of 3 plays, I think they were in at least twice. Wes Cates has his 2nd touchdown of the game, 7th rushing touchdown, 8th overall. 7 rushing touchdowns. A guy by the name of Reed has the Saskatchewan record with 18. This guy's over the pace of 1 a game.
And in 1970, when they went 4-0 the last time, it was George Reed that was the starting tailback.
Rich Stubler politely disagreeing with the last ruling.
I do agree with your thought there, though, Chris, that of the 3 tries, at least one of them, I think he was probably in. I mean, you could even argue that Stephen Giles was in, although you couldn't have enough evidence to overturn it. But that was the closest one, and we went to Saskatchewan.
Extra point is added. 5th lead change of the game, and a 5-point Rough Rider lead. Tonight's game story brought to you by MGD. Nothing to hide.
Will we see more heroics from Kerry Joseph? Darian Durant left early in this game in the first quarter after a hit from Adrian Mays.
Broken ribs.
Yeah, Arlen Bruce. He's got going in this game tonight, and Wes Cates has been the story for the offense for Saskatchewan, but it's not over yet.
10 plays, 75-yard touchdown drive. Almost 6 minutes off the clock. And now Dominic Dorsey from inside his 5 with less than 3 minutes to go. Trying to give Kerry Joseph some field position. And there's Yannick Carter with another special teams tackle. Let's join Ray Morrison.
Kerry Joseph actually had his thumb taped up to a small degree. He'll still have some feeling in that right thumb, but had it covered the whole time he was off. Michael Bishop did not get up and throw. And just a quick update, Eric Tillman just passed by me and said Andy Fantu's injury, that could be another possible fracture, another trip to the hospital.
It has been a tough night for the Rough Riders, but they have the lead. And now Kerry Joseph has 2:43 to change that. And Joseph downfield and through the fingertips of Arlen Bruce, incomplete. And boy, have the fans here amped it up.
That's what Kerry Joseph is facing now. He had an open receiver. He had a well-executed play until the very end when the ball was high. Because Kerry Joseph has now got to deal with the Rider defense that are flying around and a hostile crowd here that is making it very difficult. He is going to have to try and call these plays. Can he call them on the line of scrimmage with this much noise at Mosaic Stadium?
receivers, lots of time, nobody open. He'll have to take off. Trying to get outside, he's tripped up. Big tackle by the safety, Scott Gordon.
Now, Rich Stuber still has time to punt the football away, try and get a 2 and out. We'll see if he decides to go for it now or kick the football away. There is still lots of time. If he doesn't get it here, it's game over. If he gambles, he's going to elect to throw the punt team out there and rely on his defense to get a 2 and out stop.
And the fans get to their feet again. Looks like the quarterback wanted to go for it on 3rd and 3.
Well, he knows the success that Wes Cates has had in this second half.
Berman flagged down. Berman down. Drop. Great downfield cover by Raymond Fontaine.
See if this flag is back at the line of scrimmage again. Usually that's the punt return team that gets called. We'll see. This could be a break that works in the Argos' favor.
Holding is the call, I believe, against Saskatchewan.
Well, this couldn't have worked out better for Toronto in that they get a good punt and cover situation, and then if they tack on a penalty.
Holding, Saskatchewan, number 91.
Wow.
10-yard penalty. First down.
Jimmy Verdon. So that ends up being 43-yard punt and a 10-yard penalty.
Just to the left there, you see
a tackle for Jean-Nicolas Carrière. And so Saskatchewan starts at their own 23. Giles handing it off. Nothing there that time for Wes Cates. And now the defense has to make another play. Michael Fletcher, who has been the most active defender in this game, another tackle.
And now do Toronto go with the 40 and the 4-man front, or do they leave their passing set defense out there? Karis Reed has got Ronald Flemings on the field.
Argos just took their timeout, stopping the clock at 2:12.
And this is the play. If Stephen Giles can move the sticks here, not only does he get that position, field position, where a punt puts the Argos in a deeper hole, obviously, but he kills precious time off that clock.
You know, they have ridden Wes Cates today, but you've got to give Stephen Giles credit. Trying to become the 3rd Rough Rider quarterback in 5 weeks to win.
No Andy Fantus in the lineup as well for Saskatchewan.
2nd and 7. They have to get to the 33. Double tight ends. Fake to Cates. There's Neil Hughes. First down. Hughes across the 45 to the 50. The local kid comes through with another enormous play.
Well, it starts with Stephen Giles getting it out of there at all because he was caught in the backfield. I believe it was Rael Johnson, did not bite on the play fake. He stayed high, and Giles somehow jumps up over him. Well, it was Pyle, Willie Pyle, and then Hughes at the other end makes Orlando Steinauer miss, and what a huge play for Saskatchewan. Each guy on this roster contributes.
24 yards on that one. A 34-yarder earlier, scored his first ever Mosaic Stadium touchdown a week ago, but that play almost as big. And time count violation against the Rough Riders.
Time count inside of 3 minutes is loss of down.
1:41 on the clock.
Time count violation. Saskatchewan, number 9. Loss of down. 2nd down.
Costly.
Well, it puts them in 2nd and long and gives the Argonauts one more chance.
So they reset the clock to 1:43. Gets a reaction. Couple of seconds extra.
Ronald Flemings just left the field. They brought Adrian Mays back out in a passing situation.
So it's 2nd and 10. send extra people. That pass is caught by the former Argo, who drops it. And Byron Parker's got it. Argos have the turnover as Michael Palmer caught the ball and then dropped it. And now they're going to argue and probably review whether or not he was down before the fumble.
Out route by Michael Palmer. He has it here and goes down, but I don't know if he's
that ball
touched.
was being knocked out by Willie Pyle.
And I don't know when that knee touches, even if was Palmer even touched or down by contact when the knee first went down. Here comes Pyle. Now it's his knee touched, but I don't think he was touched by Pyle when his knee was down.
This might be a better angle.
See, if Palmer's touched now and his knee goes down there,
ball's out, and
the challenge is whether the player was down by contact.
touched, as you say.
That's what I'm saying. That is going to be the key in this play, because the ball looked like it came out on its own, and the fans want the officials to look at the replay.
Scoreboard.
Yeah, look at the replay.
He's going to, but he's got his own private scoreboard.
But it's when Palmer went down and the knee touched. I don't think Pyle had touched him yet, which means he can fumble the ball.
Pyle going for the strip. Now the knee is in his back. Now does that constitute the contact that...
But the knee in the back was the ball out first. Like, here's what I'm talking about. Okay, the knee goes down there, but he's not touched.
The ball's out there.
The ball is out and then touched.
And again, the call is fumble. They need enough evidence
to overturn.
Yeah.
Here's the touch by the knee. Not touched by contact there, and the ball was on its way out. It is a split second. Now, was the right hand on the shoulder pad, though, of Michael Palmer? Or on the hands? His knee is down there, and is that contact, down by contact, and is the ball coming out just prior to that move? Those are the questions that the official will have to answer, because it looks like he's losing the handle a little bit right there.
It's coming out, and
now the touch. I think that stands. I mean,
you think it's Argos football?
I do. I think it was that close, but when Palmer's knee touched, I don't think that Willie Pyle touched him.
And a mistake by Michael Palmer, who has to just secure that football. There was no need to stretch for any extra yardage.
No, because even a punt there didn't hurt them if he was a little bit short. But I think he had that yardage. Let's see.
What's Ken Lazarick got?
After reviewing the play, the receiver's knee was touched the ground. He had possession. Saskatchewan ball.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they got this one right. I mean, I know everyone in Mosaic Stadium and those at home in Regina are wondering why. But it all depends on whether or not the official clearly ruled that Willie Pyle, the knee is down now, and Willie Pyle had made contact there. Because you can fumble the ball. If you fall down on your own, you can fumble the ball as long as you're not touched. You know that old saying that the ground can't make you fumble? That's not true. The ground can make you fumble if you are not touched and down by contact.
Well, in fairness to Michael Palmer, he was a yard short. Why he stretched out, it is a 3rd and 1.
Well, now what they'll do is that they may even have the officials go and take a look at the spot of the ball. But, boy, Michael Palmer dodges a bullet there, doesn't he?
Does he ever? The former Argo. How do you gamble? 3rd and 1? If it is?
No way. I don't think, even if it's 3rd and well, unless it's just an inch or two, but anywhere close to a yard, I think you punt this football away.
There's Darian Durant back on the sidelines.
You just cannot afford to have that's a full yard. I think you got to punt that ball away if you're Ken Miller.
Especially after we saw the last goal line stand.
Well, even the risk of a bobbled snap or a bobbled handoff or the ball getting punched out as Stephen Giles, if he goes on a sneak, tries to get that yard. No, this is a safe play. You put your punt team out there and you make Kerry Joseph go the length of the field. Plus, this is the best covered team in the CFL.
So there's still time left. And Bourne wants to keep this in play. Single point does not help the Roughriders. 5-point lead. Once again, the Argos have used their timeout. Gorham has too much, or does he? No, into the end zone. And this will be a single point, and it should be stopped quickly. So it's a 6-point lead. Not what Gorham wanted.
No. No, that'll give Kerry Joseph the football.
And an Argo team that drove 109 yards in 1:16 last week needs 75 yards today.
It's amazing that, you know, for Jamie Gorham, 1 yard or 2 yards too much costs him 35 yards of field position, because Kerry Joseph gets this start at the 35-yard line. He's done it before, but not in hostile territory last week.
Somebody just turned up the volume again. Joseph guns that. Arlen Bruce a catch. First down at the 46 as Joseph shows you his fastball.
That's how he tried to start the last series, with a quick throw to Arlen Bruce. They didn't connect. This time he put a lot of heat on it and threw a fastball.
5 did not have a catch in that memorable drive last week. He has one, hoping to kickstart another game-winning touchdown drive here. Hofford stays in and picks up the blitz over the middle, and it's just out of the reach of Bruce. 45 seconds left.
Another nice blitz pickup there, you mentioned, by Nathan Hofford, to allow Kerry Joseph to get that ball out of there and not have to take a big hit and lose yards on first down. You know it's 3-down territory for him now.
Too bad these fans don't have any fun. And somebody's having too much fun.
Now they'll have to reload, which actually helps. It helps the Argos. This is an uneducated fan, and there's educated fans in this province, believe me. They know their football and know when to cheer and when not to, but a fan just ran across the field, which we will not show you, but that will help Toronto to try and get composed, make sure everybody knows what the play is and where to go. And Kerry Joseph now talks a little bit to Arlen Bruce to make sure his #1 receiver's on the same page with him.
I know I'm going out on a limb here, but 28,800 are here, and I don't think anybody, there might be one, was around to see the 1934 team that went 5-0.
And there may be one or two. It wasn't those two you just saw. It's not those two for sure.
Yeah, don't get us into trouble like that.
No.
Field clear, 2nd and 10.
I gave Kerry Joseph a nice long huddle. We'll see if he can take advantage of that break.
Pay dirt 63 yards away. Has time, lots of it. Steps up, guns it. James Robinson a first down. At the Roughrider 47, 37 on the clock.
Threaded the needle again. This time it looked like Kerry Joseph was going to try and run. And he just notices Robinson at the last second, guns it right through traffic. I like this Robinson. James Robinson is a keeper. It's a tough catch over the middle.
And what kind of story would it be if Kerry Joseph can win it in the final minute in his return to Mosaic? Pulls it down, hit, and throws incomplete, but he was punished and a little slow to get up there.
And did it cross the line of scrimmage?
No flag.
There is no receiver anywhere near. I don't see a penalty flag, but did the ball cross the line of scrimmage? Because if it didn't, it's intentional grounding.
Sean Lucas off the edge.
And Eddie Davis.
And Eddie Davis, too. A halfback blitz.
Going aggressive. Richie Hall calls an all-out blitz.
22 seconds left. 2nd and 10. And that one skips incomplete. The one hopper to Andre Talbot. They're down to one play. And you wonder about the thumb. But Kerry Joseph banged on a helmet earlier in this quarter.
And then just got up slow after the last hit from Eddie Davis. So he has got to shake that off. it's going to be very difficult for him to audible at the line of scrimmage with this crowd off the hook. He's going to have to call that play in the huddle and then stick with it. That's what home field advantage is all about.
This isn't quarterback draw time, is it?
It's a little far.
3rd and 10. Sideline pass sails high. This one's over. Incomplete, intended for James Robinson. And they're going to be 5-0 in Saskatchewan.
The best start for this football team since before the invention of the forward pass, I think. And the Grey Cup party continues.
No storybook finish for the returning hero. And the unlikeliest hero, Stephen Giles, is going to kill the clock. Three different quarterbacks celebrating wins in a 5-0 Saskatchewan start. And it only gets more fun because now they get to go back-to-back against Henry Burris and the arch rivals from Calgary. Final play, and this one's in the books. The Saskatchewan Roughriders are perfect as they beat the Argos 28-22. Time now for the TSN turning point.
Well, it's the turning point, game in and game out, it seems, goes down to the wire, and it was a fourth quarter play again. It was a touchdown by Wes Cates. Right at the line, met by Michael O'Shea and Michael Fletcher, but Cates just got it across that goal line. The play was challenged. It was not overturned. Touchdown Saskatchewan. That put him ahead, and Kerry Joseph couldn't find more heroics tonight.
The TSN Turning Point brought to you by the 2008 GMC Sierra Professional Grade. Well, Wes Cates a star. And Kerry Joseph in a losing cause in his return to Mosaic Stadium. Another great football game, and somehow the Saskatchewan Roughriders continue to find a way to win. 28-22, that's the story from Mosaic. So long, everybody. SportsCenter is next.